Thereafter, just to give you a flavor of the ground situation, several times ceasefires have been declared from both sides. Many of those ceasefires were not honored. Some of them were honored partially. The last ceasefire announced of 72 hours is holding by and large, but there has been feedback of some sporadic firing and fighting going on in some parts of Khartoum. Also, as a result of that, the situation on the ground remains highly volatile, with the, as I said, conflicting report of claims coming from both sides. So when we talk about Operation Kaveri, naturally there would be a degree of focus on number of Indians who are stuck in Sudan, how many have come back, how many we are planning to bring back, which is a very significant and probably the most important consideration for Government of India. But I would also suggest to you to keep in mind the ecosystem in which this exercise of assisting and bringing back the stranded Indians is taking place. And the ecosystem comprises of, as I said, highly volatile conflict zone situation in Sudan, pretty much very hard to access areas outside the Khartoum city, and I will talk about that as we go along. Our estimate is that approximately there are 3,500 Indian nationals and about 1,000 odd PIOs in Sudan. As I said, these numbers are approximate numbers, and it is our effort to put as much specificity to those numbers as we can as we go along. And some of these numbers keep fluctuating depending, or rather keep getting added depending upon who reaches out to the embassy, considering that they are all scattered, not just all over Khartoum city, but also in many parts of Sudan. The pockets of concentration are in Khartoum city and its suburbs. There are also pockets in Omdurman, Al-Fashar, Kassala, Port Sudan, etc., where many of the Indian nationals are located. What we did was that as soon as the fighting broke out in Khartoum, our embassy in Khartoum immediately alerted and reached out to as many members of the Indian community as they could. As it turns out, they pretty much reached out to almost all of them by and large. 2, issued immediate advisories both in Khartoum city as well as in Delhi. 3, created a network of communication within Sudan despite the challenges of the network availability, power availability to charge your network, charge your devices. Created a system, a group of network of communications through which they could, pass on the information about the ongoing conflict situation to the members of the community. 2, advise them suitably not to take avoidable risks. 3, also keep them informed about the efforts of Government of India underway as part of Operation Kaveri to assist them and bring them out of the areas where they were stranded. They also, embassy also initiated a online registration process, which naturally had its challenges because, as I said, the network availability and the power outages combined together create a situation that online networks sometimes don't run fully well. So far, it is our estimate that roughly 3,400 Indian nationals have either registered online or they are in touch with the embassy. More specifically, I think 3,000 odd have already registered online, 3,100, and roughly an additional 300 are in touch with the mission. Embassy's principal thrust and Government of India's focus in this entire effort has been to advise and assist the stranded Indian nationals, advise them to remain safe, and help them move to secure locations whenever feasible, whether in the middle of the night or during the day, of course, after carefully evaluating the conflict situation on the ground. Furthermore, as soon as the conflict broke out, the Ministry of External Affairs set up a 24/7 control room up on the third floor of this building. That control room continues to run 24/7 and will continue to do so till we have overcome the current situation and resolved it fully. As part of our efforts, the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, also reached out to foreign ministers of other key partners whose nationals were also stuck in Sudan. These included foreign ministers of the US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and last night Shankar also had a conversation with the UK foreign ministers. This is over and above his meetings with the UN Secretary General in New York on April 20th, focused exclusively on the situation in Sudan with a view to making an assessment that would help Government of India efforts to bring back the stranded Indians there. You would have seen reports, of course, that the Honorable Prime Minister last Friday chaired a high-powered meeting in which he personally reviewed and directed the officials of Government of India to take suitable measures, all suitable measures, to assist and bring back the stranded Indians. As part of our efforts, two C-130 aircraft of Indian Air Force have been mobilized and are constantly positioned in Jeddah, have been there since 19th of April. We also set up a control room in Jeddah and a control room in Port Sudan. So we have two control rooms working along with our embassy. So there's a full triangulation of efforts between control room in Jeddah through our consulate and mission in Riyadh, through the control room team in Port Sudan, which is the northeastern coast of Sudan, and our embassy in Khartoum city. And of course, each of these three hubs are coordinating their efforts and direction to bring back the stranded Indians with the headquarters in Delhi. Two naval ships have also been positioned as part of Government of India efforts. INS Sumedha was the first one to dock, picked up roughly 300 odd Indians yesterday, brought them to Port Jeddah, and is today back in Port Sudan to fetch the next group of Indians and bring them to safe harbors. Yesterday, the other ship, INS Teg, also docked at Port Sudan, bringing, of course, our control room team and additional resources which were required for this purposes of bringing back the stranded Indians. I'm informed that third ship, INS Tarkash, has also reached Port Sudan today as part of our efforts. Now, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, the conflict zone surrounded around the city of Khartoum. So when we started issuing advisories and started looking at the pathways to exit from the conflict zone into the safe areas, we had to pursue a land corridor of roughly 850 kilometers from Khartoum to Port Sudan. So just to orient you in terms of the scale, besides the number itself, just the sheer scale of Operation Kaveri. So if Khartoum city is the middle, 850 northeast of that is the Port Sudan, which is where, as I said, it's an area of relative safety with the ability for not only ships to dock, but also the availability of airstrip for the C-130 aircraft or other aircraft to land there. Approximate journey time, depending upon whether you are traveling in the day or through the night, can easily be between 12 to 18 hours. And add to that, there is another complexity of the availability of diesel fuel for buses. I know it sounds very trivial to talk about diesel availability and bus availability, but on the ground, these are real logistical challenges, which as part of our relentless and ongoing efforts were addressed, resolved, and we were successfully able to bring out a large number of Indians, and numbers I can talk to you later on about it. Our mission in Khartoum worked through and through, day and night, and managed to arrange buses at different locations in the Khartoum city to mobilize people, including from the particularly conflict areas in central Khartoum, in the two districts, Amata district and Khartoum 1 and 2. When the first convoy left Khartoum city for Port Sudan, 2 of our embassy officials accompanied that convoy in order to ensure that there were no problems on the way, and if there were, then at least they were handled and resolved. Mission also made arrangements along with the members of the community in Port Sudan, arrangements for stay and food for the stranded Indians at one of the facilities. And most importantly, when they reached Port Sudan, full arrangements were in place to provide them with necessary documentation, mainly because being the conflict zone, all of them being in conflict zone, many of them were not in a position to carry their documentation with them. So to facilitate their documentation was a critical necessity before they could be evacuated out from there. As we speak, we have a situation that roughly in total 600 odd people, Indian nationals, have either arrived in India or are on their way. So 360 of them arrived by a charter Saudi Arabia flight yesterday night. Another 246 are being flown to Maharashtra state in a commissioned C-17 flight. We currently have approximately, give some leeway on the numbers, approximately 495 Indian nationals who are in Jeddah as of now that we speak. These numbers will either go up or come down depending upon the flows in from Port Sudan and depending upon the evacuation from Jeddah to India. Also, as we speak, there are 320 Indian nationals who are in Port Sudan currently stationed. We have more number of buses moving from Khartoum city to Port Sudan. And as I said, INS Umeda, our ship is already there. INS Tarkash is about to dock there. We have 2 C-130J aircraft standing in Jeddah for more sorties later during the day. So if you look at the network bridgehead line, is from Khartoum to Port Sudan to Jeddah, Jeddah to India. And we are trying to secure each point in this entire network of movement. Khartoum city through our embassy and community, Port Sudan, through embassy, through the team which flew in from Jeddah to establish control room, in Jeddah through our consulate and mission in Riyadh, and of course at headquarters in close coordination with the resident commissioners of different state governments who are here. Just to share some specifics with you, on 25th April, INS Sumedha brought 278 internationals. It's the same INS Sumedha which has gone back and redocked today. And 2 sorties of C-130 brought in 121 and 135 passengers respectively. Yesterday on 26th April, another batch of 297 Indians have sailed out on INS Teg, and 2 more sorties of C-130 to evacuate another batch of 264 Indians.
ये चिल्लाते ही जा रहा था, ये नहीं था, ये वाला ये है।
खुल गया भैया, भैया पूरा उड़ गया।
Right now has been accessed exclusively by CNN News 18. These are visuals purportedly from moments after the Dantewada blast that took place yesterday, in which 10 police personnel and a civilian driver were killed after Maoist action, in which a vehicle in which they were traveling was blown up. The vehicle was part of a convoy carrying security personnel in Chattisgarh's Dantewada district. These are very disturbing visuals. As you could hear over there, in it, you could hear one person saying, "Ud gaya." I'll go over to my colleague Arunima right now for more details. Arunima, over to you.
So this video, actually, we have been on the lookout for this since yesterday, because we were told at least one TI is like a local police constable who was with the DRG team, had taken shelter behind one of the vehicles and had managed to shoot this. And we were also told that some villagers there had also taken out their mobiles, recorded what was going on. So this clip which has emerged, let me begin by saying that the police has not yet authenticated this, as it's a crucial piece of evidence during the police investigation. All the senior officers are there paying homage to the Dantewada victims, so the Chief Minister is also present. But this has come to their notice as well. And the process of, making the evidentiary evaluation of this video will happen. But what is it that you're seeing in this video? You can see a wire-like, a thread-like piece lying across the road. That we are presuming is the wire. Yesterday, eyewitness accounts had told us that when this convoy of 4 vehicles was moving about, first 2 sped away. The third one overtakes an SUV, and after going about 100 meters, the wire across the road was connected allegedly by Naxals detonating the IED. So that wire that you see in this video is that what was used to detonate the IED. That we'll have to wait and see. Also, whose voice is it? The person who says, "Oh yeah, bhaiya," is that one of the Naxal cadre? The accent, they don't speak Hindi mostly. So the accent and the way it is being said, is it one of the people who was present there, or one of the DRG jawans? That also police will have to ascertain, because if it is one of the locals, then that person can be an eyewitness as well. But what this establishes is how this blast happened, and the road on which this blast happened, and how the jawans, the 10 jawans who were martyred, have no chance. It went off and then it was over in a flash. So they had no chance, and that was told to us by the pictures from ground zero as well of the mangled remains of the vehicle.
Arunima, just stay with us. I want to play out these visuals again for our audiences with the sound. Take a look.
ये चिल्लाते ही जा रहा था, ये नहीं था, ये वाला ये है।
खुल गया भैया, भैया पूरा उड़ गया।
Okay, you can see those visuals. They are quite graphic. My colleague Arunima remains with us. Arunima, this incident took place yesterday. 10 police personnel and a civilian driver were killed. I do want to understand from you, what were the immediate actions we saw from security forces present on the ground? I know later in the day, the Home Minister gave a call to the Chief Minister. We'll get to that in a second. But first, if you could tell us about the immediate follow-up efforts.
So what happened, the sequence of events, as we have been told, is that once the anti-Naxal operation was over, like we have been telling our viewers, there was specific intelligence about Naxal presence in Arhanpur, and this DRG team of about 200 personnel was sent the day before the actual attack happened. They were on their way back to Dantewada, and we are also being told, again, we'll have to wait for police to officially tell us this, but we've been told by local sources is that some Naxals after this operation, where Naxals or supporters of Naxals were detained as well, and they were also being brought back to Dantewada when this explosion happened. When this explosion happened, the 10 people and the driver of that bus that was blown off had no chance, but the vehicles around that, there were two in front and one SUV towards the back, we're told they did try to fire back, and there was exchange of gunfire. So the Naxals were waiting there to connect the wires, ensure that the IED goes off, and they were also willing to confront. But after that gunfire happened, they disappeared into the forested areas. A message was sent to the headquarters about this attack, and soon after, paramilitary forces and the local DRG tried to carry out a search operation in the forest. I don't think it led them to anything. The impact of this attack, this explosion was such that even the rifles that the DRG Jawans were carrying, even those were found twisted.
Okay, Arunima, just stay with us. We have Colonel Rohit Dev, who's with us right now. He is a defense expert. Sir, thank you for joining us here on the show this morning. So we're playing out for our audiences visuals that are quite graphic in the sense that you can tell that it seems as if the explosion is visible in the distance. Sir, how are you interpreting these visuals? What cues do you think they could possibly give agencies?
Yeah, I think there are two or three things to note in this incident. Firstly, it's happened after a long time, and
2 years.
I'm not saying there's a sense of complacency which ever sets in, but there are times in which the militants and the insurgent groups modify their tactics to, carry out such attacks, and to get nearly that quantum of explosive and to be able to, shape is something which they must have planned and seen happening for the last couple of months or few months at least, that once an operation is called off by the security forces, what is the kind of process they follow to de-induct back into their camps. So I think there has to be something more innovative done as well by the security forces to ensure it does not happen in the future. Having said that, I think there's always a lot of civil sense, amongst us citizens, to see these attacks as one standoff. I don't think so that is the way to look at it because, this is a continuum. It is just that when you are too much, aggressive with your intent as the state and you want to curb such activities which are anti the state or the nation, you bring in a certain process which is looking much more robust. And at that time, is the time when these insurgent groups or sponsored groups, as you may call them, which are anti-national, they may build up some different kind of modus operandi. They may go into a sort of a bulk period and not react for some time, but they're always active. So whether they are sourcing their funds, whether they're sourcing their weapons, they're sourcing explosives, whether they are training, they're always active. So I think the continuum to be aggressive against such forces, anti-national forces, has to be a little more robust. And I'm quite sure, I'm not saying that it's not being done, but what I'm saying is that, you can't lose precious lives in such attacks. And not that, personally being from the military services, I cannot say that there's a fault anyway, but I must say that there has to be a higher degree of caution and alertness and SOPs refined because today technology permits you. Technology permits you to, even on the routes you are going today, even if you are paramilitary force or a special force acting there, you can use technologies which are more enabled, more aerial in nature to do surveillance, monitoring, so that once you are coming back on a route or going on a route, it is still much more safer. So I think you need to do that now, and you can't have these PMA forces acting as third tier of some defense in our country for the internal security without having the niche technologies now at their disposal. So I think the time has come. They must reevaluate their entire tactics of surveillance and sort of cornering an area or carrying out operations and then de-induction. And this should be the norm going ahead. So I think lessons will be learned from this, but not to lose heart, because this happens, when the state is trying to quell this kind of an anti-national activity, and things will happen. So I can't say much on this.
Colonel Dev, if I could just ask you to stay with us. I want to take to our second guest, ADG KK Mishra, who's with us right now. He's also a security expert. I want to take to him part of what you've said. Sir, part of what Colonel Dev said right now, perhaps the largest message he gave, was that SOPs need to be revised. In this story in particular, it has emerged in the hours since the attack took place that a fortnight ago, intelligence agencies had flagged a threat letter by Naxals in Chattisgarh. Sir, do you think more should have been done in the interim when Colonel Dev says that SOPs need to be revised? Do you agree?
Yes, the SOP needs repair.
All right. We'll try to re-establish that connection with Sir in just a second. I'll bring you more details about the letter that we're talking about in particular. Late last month, Maoists in Chattisgarh actually issued a letter threatening to attack security forces as retaliation for anti-Naxal operations. Now, until we're able to establish our connection with Sir, we're going to go back to Colonel Rohit Deb, who is the defense expert who remains with us. Colonel Deb, I hope you're able to hear me. I want to come over to you with a question here. Sir, some experts say, to the question of why these attacks continue in Chattisgarh in particular, some experts say that while it's well known that in... All right, we've actually lost Colonel Dev, but I do believe KK Mishra remains with us. Sir, are you able to hear me?
Yes,
All right.
I can hear you.
Sir, do you want to continue answering the question I was asking you earlier about SOPs?
Yes.
Sir, do go ahead.
Yes, I can tell you that it is the right time to change the SOP. The SOP was made quite earlier when situation was different. In the meantime, the logistical change has happened quite a lot in police, particularly in Chattisgarh police and various other police departments also. And the modernization of weapons, they have been done. Similarly, the technique adopted by Naxalites have changed. Operational strategy has changed from both sides. And in fact, the modernization of weapons, modernization of your and collection of intelligence and the MAC, and dissemination of information, everything has changed on the ground. Even the ground is changing. The terrain is changing. And development is going on. Social development is going on, and society is also changing. Society knows that, okay, the Naxalites are not the tribals. What they are, they also think. Pressure tactics also is changing. So when everything is changing, we can't sit down with the old SOP and stick to it.
But sir, tell us, how do you think SOPs need to change, in what ways?
I can well tell you the situation for every operation. The situation will change. The demand of force, demand of weapons, demand of logistics, demand of weapons, demand of technicality, demand of drones, demand of troops, logistic availability of troops. These all will change now, and the requirement needs to know, and I see it will, on operational basis it has to be. What the intelligence is there. So you have to, and for every type of intelligence, every type of operation, like what will be there in Pakistan border will not be the same for Bangladesh border. What is there for Bangladesh border cannot be there for Naxalites area. And Naxalites area will not match with Northeast. So SOP cannot be the same.
But sir, if we were to just focus on this situation, what took place yesterday, There's clearly been an intelligence failure with such a large amount of explosives that were laid. How do you look at the situation? Where do you see the faults? Give us more context.
I can well tell that if such an amount of explosives, more than 50 kgs, was planted, and they returned in the same route. It is and even the firing was also there after the blast was there. They fired also certain rounds while escaping. So that means the planning was there. The information got leaked out. So I can well tell you that it is a failure, no doubt. It's a failure of operation. And the worst part of it, there was no commander with the troops. And the strength in that area, going inside with a 10 strength, it is impossible. I don't know how it was planned and the same route was adopted. And the worst part of it, the leader was not there. You see, when Havildar cannot lead any operation, anti-Naxal operation, it is never heard of. And this should not have been done. I'm sorry to tell.
All right, sir, thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing us that context. On your screens, visuals playing out from the attack yesterday. We're leaving you with that story. That is our last story for the day right here on the show. Thank you for staying with us through the last 1 hour. Thank you for watching CNN News 18. Next, my colleague Ridhima joins us at 12.
I know, though I'm not in Raipur, I'm not in Chattisgarh today. I'm in Bhopal with my family. But the information that has come in that this blast took place at about 12:45 in the afternoon. After the group was returning from an exchange of fire with the Naxalites. This is about 45 kilometers south of Dantewada, which is the district headquarters. And it was a convoy of vehicles. This was not a single vehicle. There's not just 10 people. There were 10 people in the civilian vehicle, of course camouflaged, who were affected by the IED blast and who were martyred. 10 police personnel and 1 driver, civilian driver. All local boys, all district force boys, I think. All of them were tribal boys. And Yadav, I think, was the driver. So we lost these 11 people today, very sadly.
But these personnel were travelling in a vehicle instead of going on foot, Mr. Deo. They used the same route twice, which is again not the SOP. So why were the standard operating procedures not followed?
I am really not aware of the geographical terrain there. Were there other routes available? Were they not available? I am frankly not aware of that. And there are suggestions given in these SOPs that you could take another route, etc. But if there is one route going in and one route going out, you don't have an option. I am frankly not aware of that, so I cannot really speak authoritatively on that. And this is a tar road they were traveling on, a road which was tarred about 4 or 5 years back. They had gone by this route and they were returning by this route, which is true. And they could have used bikes, they could have been on foot, but any number of other operations in a similar fashion may not have met this sad fate today, but there has been loss of life today. They would be looking into the matter and trying to see whether there was any slip-up.
It on the face of it looks like there were slip-ups because the SOPs were not followed. But Mr. Dev, with whom does the buck stop over today's incident? Who's responsible for 10 lives lost?
Everyone. Nobody can really shirk responsibility. Bottom up, top down. Everybody is involved in the entire process of management and governance. So you cannot really put the buck on any one person. It is a system that we function in. The central government forces are there, their intelligence is there, the state government forces are there, their intelligence is there, government is there, administration is there, the police forces are there. So it's not any one person, but whenever a tragedy takes place, it is best to face up together. And if there is a matter of responsibility, not put it on anybody else's shoulder. Everybody, all of us must take the responsibility.
It's 11 lives lost, 10 Jawans and the driver. someone has to be accountable. According to data provided by the CRPF earlier this year, incidents of violent Maoist attacks in Chattisgarh dropped by 77% in 2022 compared to 2010, but the incidents of killings were increasing. Is the Chattisgarh government ready for a return of red terror?
See, they are there. Nobody is denying that Naxalites are not present. When the state of Chattisgarh was formed, we had, let us say, 5 battalions of paramilitary forces. Today, we have probably more than 60. We are aware that a large area has been sort of cleared or taken under control, though Naxalites could be just about anywhere. They could be in Delhi, they could be in Bhopal, they could be in Raipur, they could be in any city. They are not limited to any one track. But where the activities could have been seen as unchecked, those areas have been fairly limited now. And last, I talked to senior police officials while I was in Jagdalpur. They mentioned an area of, let us say, 40 by 100 kilometers that needed to be taken care of further. So it's a very difficult task, very difficult terrain, almost uninhabited, very difficult to deal with it, undulating forests and jungles and streams. Many of the areas are unapproachable. And in that, it is a process where gradually things are moving towards greater control of the state machinery. It's not as if they have the run of the ground. They can do whatever they want. It is not quite like that. Things have improved, but we need to go much further ahead where Naxal activity or their presence is eliminated. So we are a little distant still from there.
Mr. Tia Singh Dev, thank you for speaking with us and making the time here at CNN News 18. But there, like you said, there is a lot more that needs to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is that they need to get it right only once. Our security forces and the establishment has to get it right every single time. And another aspect, it's not at the line of control. It's not in Jammu and Kashmir. It's not at the line of actual control or LAC. It's not in the northeast. It's in these jungles. It's to red terror that...
Good afternoon, it's 12 noon. You're with us here at CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar, getting you all the top stories over the next 60 minutes. The top focus is coming in from Karnataka. Ahead of elections in Karnataka, politics over reservations still continues to only escalate. The former Chief Minister and the Leader of Opposition, Siddaramaiah, has further intensified the ongoing quota war by declaring that if the Congress comes to power, it will increase the reservation from an existing 50% to a 75%. They will also increase reservation to all castes based on their population. The BJP has now hit back. Tejasvi Surya of the BJP has gone on to say that every election, Siddaramaiah says that it's his last election. He's also gone on to say that the Congress has realized that Karnataka is not following for their fake promises. Hence, an attempt is being made to try and get voters as far as appeasement is concerned. Remember, the quota war started after Union Home Minister Amit Shah called for reservation as far as Muslims is concerned unconstitutional.
The reservation limit from 50% to 75% and to increase reservation to all castes.
When he is going to lose miserably, that question does not arise. We are going to form the government, whatever the need, we will do it.
And while speaking to News 18's Rohini Swami, Karnataka Minister V. Somanna is hit out at the former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. He's gone on to said, and I'm quoting, that Siddaramaiah calls every election his last election. Let's listen in.
Well, BJP's V. Somanna has hit the ground. Literally, if I can say, he's in his Padayatra. Sir, how do you plan to take on former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah in Varuna? He says this is his birthplace, this is his last election. What is your Brahmastra?
No. When Siddaramaiah told last time, it is last election. This time also told last election. Next time also told the last election. There is no limitation but last election. Siddaramaiah ji, last election he told, he's in the floor of the house also told. But what we now? Why you are coming? Last election is last election. This election, next election is also same dialogue.
How confident? How confident are you?
No, I am no confident. I have confident only my people. I only my voters. If those voters, no cost, no nothing, down to earth, they have decided. what is different between Sobhanna and Siddaramaiah work, style of working.
Correct.
They have taken my constituency in Govindanagar, Bangalore.
Yeah.
I'm a hard worker. I'm a workaholic man. Siddaramaiah ji is a leader. When Modi ji come, Amit Shah ji come, and then our leader Yadurappa ji come, Srinivas Prasad come. There are a lot of confidence to the people.
Political war of words only escalating as far as the Quota row is concerned. Let's also now bring in our colleague Akshara, who's standing by. Akshara, as we inch closer to counting and the eventual verdict for Karnataka, political war of words is only escalating as far as the Quota promises and the Quota row is concerned. Now the Congress is saying that if they are voted back to power, they in fact will increase the reservation to 75%. The Home Minister, when he was campaigning a few days ago, and he also spoke to us here exclusively at CNN News 18, he reiterated the BJP stand that the quota for the Muslims was unconstitutional. Because all of this is still playing out legally as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, there is a status quo. Why are political parties still wanting to use the quota narrative?
Well, you see, right now, this quota narrative plays a very important role for any party here in Karnataka. Remember, Chief Minister Basuraj Bommai boasted about the fact that they have increased the quota for SC and STs respectively for both these communities, and they also made it a rallying point for in the upcoming election, stating that we have done this, we have hiked the reservation, so these communities must vote for the BJP because they are working for their development. So that's what Basuraj Bommai had to say. And at the very same time, Panchama Salis were demanding a two-year reservation to a category for their community, which was an headache. So even Basuraj Bommai had to negotiate with them and hike a 2%, hike the reservation status by 2%. So even there, the quota played a very important role in negotiating with the Panchama Salis, who play a vital role when it comes to Karnataka election. These Lingayats traditionally vote BJP, so clearly BJP doesn't want to lose those voters. So right now, coming to this particular quota row, Karnataka government here scrapped the Muslim 2B reservation and gave 2% each to Vakaligas and the Lingayats as well. So the Panchama Sale Lingayats, and Congress opposed this, stating that why are you scrapping Muslim quota and giving it to the Vakaligas and the Panchama Salis, which is unconstitutional, and it is also going on in the court. So this whole quota issue plays a very important role in garnering the votes of the community. So that's why you have Siddaramaiah stating that they will increase the quota percentage by 75%, which has received a backlash from the BJP as well. So these communities, as they play a vital role, this can be an ammo for any political party in the run-up to the 2023 elections.
But actually, the question here also is, all of this started with the BJP taking away that Muslim quota, that 4% quota, and splitting it between, as you rightly pointed out, the Vakaligas and the Lingayats. But considering the fact there is status quo, at least as far as the next hearing is concerned, that is the 9th of May, isn't it almost unethical for political parties to even be using this narrative, considering the fact nothing has changed?
Well, absolutely. It is completely unethical in order to use this for their political benefit. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, till May 9 it will not be implemented. But right now, for the sake of votes, you will get to see political parties using this. You have Chief Minister Basuraj Bommai in his election rally stating that we have hiked the reservation, which the Congress would not be able to do it. But he also must specify the fact that this will not be implemented till May 9. They are not specifically going on and stating this fact. Yes, it is completely unethical in nature, and certain legal aspects should be told to the voters as well regarding what is taking place, instead of just going on and telling that we have done this, where the reality, on-ground reality, remains completely different than what they have promised.
I also want to understand something. It's very interesting when you speak to either representative of any of the political parties, whether it's the BJP, the Congress, or even the JDS, either of them hit out at their opposition, saying that because they don't have any real issues, that's why they're taking the quota narrative. But each political party seems to be doing that. So have political parties completely forgotten priorities as far as development, infrastructure and voter concerns, and only quota seems to be the priority as far as campaigning for Karnataka is concerned?
Well, you see, yes, as you rightly mentioned, there are many problems which Karnataka, especially rural Karnataka is facing. There are no better roads, no better transport facilities. Many districts need irrigation, drinking water facilities, which are yet to be fulfilled. Yes, projects have been rolled out, but sanctions must be given out. There are many other issues that are taking place. You also have in many rural areas, the schools are not in a better condition. You don't have proper teachers. You don't have students attending schools, and in many panchayat heads, Maharashtra as well. The villages there, they don't have a proper hospital. So these are the basic amenities which the Karnataka rural area is lacking, which clearly needs to be addressed. Not just addressed, but the politicians must hit the ground and ensure that all this work is executed. And this is not being done. And the only focus is on the quota row, where they are clearly each and every party is stating that if we come to power, we'll hike the reservation. If we are, and the BJP saying that we are in power, we have done this, but the implementation will be on May 9th. So this is they're lacking the focus, where the focus must be there. Right, as I'm saying. The focus must be on the developmental works, not on the quota row here.
Yeah, Akshara, we leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Our colleagues are already on the ground getting you the best ground reports and the voices that matter. Electoral campaigning in Karnataka is in its last stage. CNN News 18 senior editor Pallavi Ghosh spoke to Karnataka BJP General Secretary Mahesh Tengankai on the latest exits, including likes of Jagdish Shettar and others from the party, and what this means for the party going forward. Let's listen in.
आने वाले चुनाव में भारतीय जनता पार्टी हुबली दरार सेंट्रल से भारतीय जनता पार्टी भारी बहुमत से जीत के लाएंगे। डरने का बात ही नहीं है, क्योंकि जो शट्टर साहब का 6 इलेक्शन किया था, मैंने ही किया था। मैं खुद कार्यकर्ता होकर वो इलेक्शन किया, सो आदमी हूँ और कार्यकर्ता हूँ। जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक सामान्य कार्यकर्ता को टिकट दे दिए थे, मेरे के ऊपर मेरे जो कार्यकर्ता का टीम है, इधर का मतदार का टीम है, मतदार जो भी है, वो सभी फुल्ली कॉन्फिडेंट, वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट।
उन्होंने बीजेपी छोड़ के फिर कांग्रेस में शामिल हुए, ये बीजेपी के लिए खराब बात है।
देखिए, जो 40 साल से जगदीश शेट्टर साहब, ये कांग्रेस पार्टी को आईसीयू में रहने वाला पार्टी, ये नहा डूबने वाला पार्टी, भ्रष्टाचार का पार्टी, राहुल गांधी में कुछ दम नहीं है, ये सब बताने वाला आदमी आज जाके जो आईसीयू पार्टी था उसमें वेंटिलेटर में जाने का काम जगदीश शेट्टर में लिया है।
आप लोगों ने कभी कोशिश की कि मिस्टर शेट्टर को ये कन्विंस करें कि पार्टी छोड़ के ना जाए?
देखिए, पार्टी जो इवन लास्ट मोमेंट तक जो करने का सब कुछ किया है, मनाने का काम किया था, पूरा किया था, लेकिन वो नहीं मनाया। फिर भी हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जेपी नड्डा जी दिल्ली को बुला के उसके साथ बात किया, अमित शाह जी ने 2-3 बार फोन से उसके बात किया। बाद में लास्ट डे, इवन नाइट सेम डे ऑल्सो, माननीय हमारा मुख्यमंत्री श्री बसवराज बोम्मई जी, स्टेट में हमारा मिनिस्टर श्री प्रहलाद जोशी जी और कर्नाटका चुनाव का उस्तुवारी और केंद्र सचिव धर्मेंद्र प्रधान, तीनों लोग जाके जगदीश शेट्टर जी के साथ घर में उसके खुद घर में जाके बैठ के सब कुछ समझाने के भी किया। बताया गया था आप ये पद छोड़ दीजिए, इससे भी बड़ा पद हम दिल्ली में लेके आपको बड़ा पद देने के बाद भी हुआ था, जो आपको कहेंगे उसको पार्टी का टिकट देंगे करके बताया।
लिंगायत वोट बैंक इज ऑफ कोर्स इम्पोर्टेंट, बट कांग्रेस का ये कहना कि आपको लगता है गुगली है?
देखिए, कांग्रेस पार्टी सत्ता में आने वाला पार्टी नहीं है, वो जो भी बोल सकता है, क्योंकि दे नो वेरी वेल वो सत्ता में आने वाला पार्टी नहीं है, इसके लिए कुछ बोल देते हैं। लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी फॉर ऑल कास्ट वी हैव गिवन अ वेरी क्लियर इंस्ट्रक्शन, क्लियर मेजर, उसका जो हिसाब से देना था वो सब कुछ दे दिया।
Play out some other ground reports. Now, one of the key focuses is the Belagavi's border disputes and language row. In early March, you would remember, the Chief Minister Baswaraj Bommai had unveiled a statue of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, a bid to woo Marathi-speaking voters. How much impact is that going to have on the ground? Here's a ground report by our colleague Pallavi Ghosh.
The Shivaji statue best epitomizes the quaint situation that the people of Belagavi find themselves in. A symbol of Marathi pride, the people over here are a toss-up between Karnataka and Maharashtra. As this constituency fights over who really they belong to, will this become a political issue in the battle for Karnataka? See, this is the Maharashtra High School. It has over 170 students. And the interesting part is that the main language of communication over here is Marathi. This also best exemplifies the situation which we are seeing in Belagavi, which is facing the massive border disputes between Maharashtra as well as Karnataka. Now, it's a tricky situation really for the BJP because in both the states they are in power. Karnataka का कहना है कि ये तो हमारा इलाका है।
पूरा कर्नाटक इधर सब कर्नाटक का ही चलता है।
हाँ, लेकिन यहाँ पे मराठी चलता है।
इधर 90% मराठी चलता है इधर।
बट मैं समझ रही हूँ, लेकिन है तो कर्नाटका में ना, तो ये तो इलेक्शन इशू बन गया।
हाँ, इलेक्शन
तो
इशू
फिर आप अच्छा, कर्नाटका कह रहा है कि बेलगावी कर्नाटका का है, महाराष्ट्र का नहीं है, फिर आप कैसे करोगे इसको?
वो तो अभी सीमा प्रश्न चालू है मैडम, वो क्या होएगा हमको भी पता नहीं है।
इलेक्शन इशू बनेगा।
पहले मराठी कन्नड़ा दोनों चलता था, अभी तो पूरा कन्नड़ ही करके छोड़ा है। हमारे को एतराज नहीं है, हमारे को कर्नाटक अच्छा सुविधा दे रहा है, वो गलत बात नहीं है, मगर पहले जो था ना मराठी कन्नड़ा, वो दोनों भाषा में हमको कागज पत्र मिलना चाहिए, उतना ही हमारा।
तो आपको लगता है इलेक्शन में ये इशू होता है या बाद में सब भूल जाते हैं?
खाली 4 साल अभी इलेक्शन होता है, 1 साल में 1 साल उतना ही इशू होता है, बाद में 4 साल सभी भूल जाते हैं।
We've been talking about the border dispute in Belagavi, but food is one great opportunity to break all those barriers and border. And I'm having a Belagavi thali, also called a South Indian thali, and a lot of items are also, which you find in Maharashtra. Chandrakant ji is with us. Yes. मुझे एक बात बता, this is the bhakri roti, but bhakri is also given in Maharashtra. It's a Marathi dish.
Yes. Actually, in this bhakri and that Maharashtra bhakri, no difference is there. Only the thing is that is called kadak bhakri.
In food, you think there's a fusion? You think here no Marathi, no everything is same?
Yes. It is an Indian food.
It is Indian food.
Bharatiya Khana. I think it is around 50 years back. When you go with the traders, you purchase the items, whether food grains, anything. The account writers were writing in Marathi, but traders were all Kannada.
We're now shifting our focus. More details are now emerging of that very unfortunate Maoist attack that happened in Dantewada yesterday. Intel sources are now telling us here at CNN News 18 that the assessment of the crime scene has now revealed that a tunnel had also been dug below the road and packed with explosives. The soil had been dug out to found dumped on the bank of a pond nearby. Sources also telling us that industrial explosives used for coal mining suspected to have been used as well. Remember, in this Maoist attack yesterday that happened in Dantewada, 10 Jawans were martyred. The driver of the vehicle lost his life as well. Our colleague Arunima now joining us with more details. Arunima, even yesterday, the first pictures that we had accessed, and we discussed this all throughout yesterday as well, that the intensity of the blast was extremely high, so possibly the quantity of explosives used was a lot as well. What are the kind of details that you're now picking up of what was the plan as far as the Maoists were concerned in laying this ambush?
Since yesterday we have been asking this question that was a road opening party missing? How did the ROP not spot that there was something amiss? If you have to put an explosive on the road, you will obviously do some digging work. How did the ROP miss that? Now the teams that have gone on the ground come up with this shocking disclosure that while the top of the road was remained intact, from the side, there was a tunnel that was dug and explosives were packed in that tunnel. And to avoid any kind of suspicion, even the soil that was dug out of that tunnel was carried some distance away. There is a pond found on a little distance away. On the banks of that pond, that soil was dumped. So anybody who was just scanning and sanitizing the road per se would have missed, because this was in the forested area a little away from the road. The second thing is the quality of the explosive. While the final forensic report is awaited, preliminary assessment suggests that this is nitrate mixture usually used for coal mining. There are a lot of mines in that particular area, and the suspicion is that CPI Maoists could have taken this explosive either by looting the explosives that were going for these mines, or by indulging in pilferage. So that is the nature of explosive use, and at least 50 kilograms is the suspicion. So that is the amount of explosive that was packed in that tunnel. Wire has also been recovered. Meters of wires have been recovered from ground. That wire was used to trigger off the blast. So the person who triggered it was quite a distance away from the road, and therefore when the surviving DRG personnel fired back, even though the Naxals reportedly retaliated, there was no gunshot wound found on anybody. There was no injury on anybody that was found as a result of the gunfire. So those are details that we have exclusively managed to gather after speaking to investigators.
Arunima, this sounds like a very devious plot that is now only being exposed as far as how this ambush was laid. I just want to go back to something that you pointed out. You are saying there was some sort of firing that happened between the Naxals and this DRG force. So the counter here will be, how come backup wasn't called at this point?
There were 200 men who were traveling as part of this anti-Naxal operation, and they were in 4 different vehicles. The vehicle that was blown up had around 10 people. The SUV, which was right behind this blown-up vehicle, had around 8 to 9 jawans, and these jawans retaliated. But by the time the retaliation happened, the gunfire happened. Also, there is a signal issue in this particular area. Mobile networks, mobile towers are difficult to establish. Infrastructure, every time government tries to build there, Naxals always blow them away, and that's why this road is also something that Naxals are not very happy about. So calling for help, could it have been done? Why was it not done? Only the survivors can tell us, but I can only guess, having traveled to this area and covered this area extensively, I can only guess that perhaps there wasn't enough time, and by the time they retaliated and reinforcement was called for, the Naxals from that area had escaped. But yes, survivors are confirming that after the blast, there was gunfire exchange between the surviving DRG force and the Naxals.
So, Arunima, now going back to the report as far as how this entire tunnel was dug up, some details that we're understanding that almost a 5 feet deep tunnel possibly could have been dug up. So what I'm essentially trying to understand, when all of this was happening, how come nobody got a whiff of what was happening?
Again, if you see, this is the road. Let me try and explain to you. This area from Dantewada to Jagargunda. Jagargunda is like the point where Sukma, Bijapur and Dantewada meet. It's like a tri-junction. So you know how Indian police system works. There's always an issue of which Thana's jurisdiction, which police force should be responsible. So those are issues in this tri-junction. This is a main road, but not very popular and not only used by the security forces for the area domination purpose. So could they have dug up this tunnel at night to avoid detection? Could they have kept guards a little away to see that every time there is a security convoy movement, they go back into the forest undetected? This is forest area that we are talking about, heavy forest on both sides, and this is the time when TCOC is on. So the Naxals are also actively trying to do a big operation. They've not managed to do anything for the last 2 years. So this must be playing on their mind also. So were they extra careful? Were our forces complacent in any way? We just have to wait for investigators to tell us.
Sure. Arunima, we'll leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Let's listen in to some reactions now.
घटना स्थल पे एक नक्सलियों के साथ मुठभेड़ हुआ, एक नक्सली घायल हुआ और एक नक्सली को पकड़ लिए और घायल नक्सली और जो जिन्हें गिरफ्तार किया गया था उसको लेकर वापस आ रहे थे। हमारे डीआरजी के जवान और एक सिविलियन की शहादत हुई। ये लड़ाई और लड़ी जाएगी। जहाँ भी नक्सली के होने की सूचना मिलेगी, हमारे जवान अब घेर के उनके साथ मुठभेड़ कर रहे हैं, लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं।
इस पे जो डीआरजी में जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी है, जो नक्सल पीड़ित भी है और जो नक्सल सरेंडर कैडर्स भी है, जैसे कल वाला घटना में भी उसमें तीनों प्रकार का जो थे, जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी थे, जो सरेंडर नक्सल कैडर्स भी थे और साथ साथ जो नक्सल पीड़ित थे, उन्होंने भी मतलब बाद में जैसा उनका पुनर्वास नहीं दिखता तो पुलिस में उनका बल में मौका दी जाती। इस प्रकार मतलब तीनों का कॉम्बिनेशन थे। सब जिस तरीके से विगत वर्षों में हम ऑफेंसिव तरीके से काफ़ी अंदर तक आगे पहुंच चुके हुए थे, उसका काफ़ी सकारात्मक परिणाम मैदान में देखने मिल रहे थे और निश्चित रूप से ये हमारे लिए एक सेटबैक रहा।
उनके परिजन को हम सहानुभूति देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। भगवान जो हमारे साथ जो जवान शहीद हैं उनको उनकी आत्मा की शांति के लिए भगवान से कामना करते हैं और हम और नक्सली के खिलाफ और भी हम उनके साथ उनकी आत्मा शांति के लिए लड़ना चाहते हैं।
जो आज इसमें से आज 1 नंबर के 10 जवान शहीद हो गए और हमारे साथ बहुत अच्छे तरीके से वो लोग ड्यूटी करते थे, साथ में रहते, हंसना खेलना कूदना टाइप जैसे करते थे ड्यूटी। कभी एक दूसरे से कोई लड़ाई झगड़ा वैसे बिल्कुल भी नहीं होता था। बहुत ज़्यादा हंसी मजाक के साथ हम सब लोग एक साथ ड्यूटी करते थे। आज वो लोग हमें छोड़ के चले गए, इस चीज़ का हमें बहुत ज़्यादा दुख हो रहा है। भगवान से हम प्रार्थना करते हैं कि भगवान उनकी आत्मा को शांति दे।
उसमें मेरा भाई था सर, और उसका नाम था संतोष कुमार थामो। अच्छा। और ग्राम बड़े कमेली पटेल पारा के सर। हम लोग को तो पता नहीं, अभी मतलब फोन आया था उधर से कि ब्लास्ट हुआ है और ऐसा हो गया है, घटना हो गया है बोल के नाम आया है।
संतोष तामो के परिवार से यहाँ पर कौन कौन सदस्य हैं?
संतोष तामो के परिवार से उनकी बड़ी दीदी है सर।
अच्छा, और उनकी पत्नी?
उनकी पत्नी तो नहीं है सर, चले गई सर, उसका ऑफिस में।
Shifting our focus then, gangster and former MP Anand Mohan, who was given a lifetime punishment for killing an IAS G. Krishnaiah, has been released from the Saharsa jail today after 15 long years. In 2007, Mohan was convicted for the murder of then Gopalganj District Magistrate G. Krishnaiah in 1994. He had been serving a lifetime in connection to this case. Now, as per sources, Anand Mohan is likely to hold a mega roadshow in his hometown. Meanwhile, retired IPS Amitabh Das will file a petition against the Bihar government's decision to amend the state prison rules, which would challenge the release of Anand Mohan. Reacting on Anand Mohan's release, G. Krishnaiah's family condemned the move and said that Nitish government is setting a wrong and dangerous precedent. The family is also likely to file an appeal against the decision. Remember, a massive controversy erupted after the state government tweaked the Bihar prison rules, which remitted prisoners' punishment for crime like murder of government service on duty. The BJP has accused the Nitish government of appeasement politics and even termed the move as return of Jungle Raj in the state.
Anand Mohan has been released from jail and he has come out from the jail at around 3 a.m. today, and at present the supporters here are in a resort. They are waiting for his leader because Anand Mohan had left the jail without informing any media or his supporters, but we have the exclusive information that he is residing at one of his relatives' place in Saharsa itself, and at around 11 a.m. a rally will be held in Saharsa, and then he will move to Pachgachia, which is the native village of Anand Mohan.
नहीं, मर्डर कन्विक्ट तो उन पर साबित ही नहीं हुआ। उन पर ये नहीं, उन पर ये आरोप लगा था कि भड़काऊ भाषण दिए, और भड़काऊ भाषण मुजफ्फरपुर में दिए, डीएम का हत्या हुआ और उसके 5 मिनट के बाद वो हाजीपुर में अरेस्ट होते हैं।
राजपूत वोटर्स आनंद मोहन के साथ हैं,
सब समाज के वोटर आनंद मोहन के साथ हैं।
तो ये जो कानून में बदलाव हुआ है, क्या आनंद मोहन की वजह से हुआ?
नहीं, कानून कहीं से सही नहीं था। ये आनंद मोहन को फंसाने के लिए लगाया गया था और फिर उन्हीं को निकालने के लिए जनता के दबाव में उसको हटाया गया।
वो आए हैं, बहुत बदलाव आएगा।
क्या बदलाव आएगा?
अब वो जो आगे करेंगे हम लोग साथ ही चलेंगे।
तो पता नहीं क्या बदलाव आएगा, लेकिन बदलाव आएगा।
उनको मतलब जिस तरह हमारे प्रभु राजा रामचंद्र को वनवास हुआ था, उसी तरह से निर्दोष होते हुए भी कानून का पालन करते हुए 14 साल वनवास काटे हैं। इसीलिए आनंद मोहन जैसे नेता को पब्लिक भी चाह रहा है कि वो बाहर रहे।
The release order came at 3 a.m. in the morning, and after that at around 4 a.m. he came out of the jail and went nowhere. So Anand Mohan is not traceable right now, but we are here at his residence in Saharsa, where the supporters were waiting for his grand welcome, but the leader has not appeared. But we have the information that at some point of time he will be coming to this house, and till then the supporters are getting ready for his grand welcome. We can see a pandal was made here with shade, and chairs are put for his welcome. आनंद मोहन यहाँ आने वाले थे, आप लोगों को क्या उम्मीद थी, कब आने वाले थे और आए नहीं तो कहाँ गए हैं, कुछ आइडिया है आपको?
आएंगे, वो आएंगे। हम लोग उन्हीं के स्वागत के लिए उन्हीं के इंतजार में खड़े हुए।
क्या क्या यहाँ पे प्रबंध था?
हम लोग फूल माला के साथ उनका जोरदार तैयारी के लिए खड़े हुए, अबीर गुलाल खेलेंगे, क्योंकि आज राम वनवास के बाद 15 बरस के बाद आज अयोध्या के नगरी में आ रहे हैं।
हम लोगों को तो फंसाया गया, हमने कृष्णैया की हत्या की ही नहीं है, तो फिर हम दलित विरोधी कैसे हो गए?
बदलाव आएगा, इनके आने से राजनीति में उथल पुथल मचेगी।
बहुत बड़ा
किस
बदलाव
तरह
आएगा।
का इनका पॉलिटिक्स आगे रहने वाला है?
बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आने वाला है आने वाले समय में, और बिहार ही नहीं पूरे देश की राजनीति में।
आनंद मोहन जी के समर्थक रहे हम, जबकि आनंद मोहन का कर्म भूमि त्रिवेणीगंज के धरती से उसका जो है सो उत्थान हुआ।
कब से साथ हैं उनके? जी, कब से साथ हैं उनके?
हम स्टूडेंट लाइफ से।
अच्छा, जेपी आंदोलन के टाइम?
हाँ, उससे भी पहले।
अच्छा, तो आप जेपी आंदोलन में थे?
जी हाँ। अच्छा, जेपी आंदोलन से भी जुड़े
गए थे?
जी।
प्रोटेस्ट करेगा उसको फिर जेल में भेजने के लिए, ये तो पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेटेड है, और उसको चीफ मिनिस्टर जी को प्रेशराइज कर दिया होगा, ऐसा इसलिए ऐसा डिसीजन ले लिया। इतना पब्लिक प्रोटेस्ट करने के बाद भी वो रिलीज कर रहा है बोले तो ये गलत है। ऐसा केसेस को एंकरेज नहीं करना चाहिए चीफ मिनिस्टर को और कोई भी पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स को। और उसको बाद में इलेक्शंस में खड़ा हुआ तो भी पब्लिक थोड़ा ये होकर उसको वोट मत डालना। प्राइम मिनिस्टर जी को भी और प्रेसिडेंट जी को भी थोड़ा सा इंटरवीन करके इसको वापस लेना बोल के नीतीश जी को बोलेगा बोल के हम विनती कर रहा है।
It's very disheartening that he's been released from the jail today. I think government should reconsider this decision because my father was a great civil servant. Something like this, if something like this happens in a military thing, it's taken into consideration very quickly. I'm hoping that Nitish Kumar ji should think about this and give it a second thought. That's all we are hoping for. It's very unfair. And not just me, but everybody around who are also speaking are thinking that, the decision that has been taken by Nitish Kumar ji is absolutely wrong. Well, appealing, definitely. If there is nothing that's been taken into consideration, then I think we will have to appeal to the Prime Minister and also the President of India.
Let's also now bring in our colleague Saurabh Rathore, who in fact has been getting us all those voices and also the mood on the ground. Now, Saurabh, it's almost ironic that at dawn is being given a hero's welcome of sorts. Many supporters now saying that this is the day we waited for, comparing it to Ram returning from his Vanvas as well. Politically speaking, the opposition continues to train its guns, saying that isn't this setting a very dangerous precedent?
Yes, indeed, because, the change in rule that says that now murder of a government servant won't be a exception to the rules, and that will be considered as a normal murder in which the maximum jail punishment is of 14 years. But before that, it was 20 years for which he was convicted. And here we are at the Saharsa jail gate. This is the place, this is the prison where he had spent more than 15 years. And because today he was released, because that particular change in amendment paved the way for Anand Mohan to come out of the jail. And today is the day when their supporters, on one hand, we have heard the family of late Krishnaiah, they all are condemning the action that was taken by the state government. The opposition is slamming the state government, saying that it's appeasement politics. But on the other side, we see the supporters have started pouring in. They are ready to welcome their leaders. And it is scheduled here that at around 1 a.m. the leader will reach here. Their supporters have started coming in. And from here, the leader will go to Ambedkar statue, where he will garland the statue, and then a road show will be conducted across the city, and after that he will move to his native village. But as of now, the supporters have started gathering here. The reason behind this particular place at the jail gate is because the earlier information was that he will be out of jail at around 11 to 12 p.m. So everybody across Bihar knew that Anand Mohan will come out of jail at that time, and because of that, the venue for the road show to begin is kept here only, although he was released very early in the morning.
That after the release of Anand Mohan, he is going to actually carry out a road show. Many supporters already thronging areas and saying that the politics of Bihar will now change. Saurabh, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Keep tracking those developments for us. Some other political reactions also coming in.
महागठबंधन की सरकार कहती तो है कि यह सामाजिक न्याय की पैरोकार है, सामाजिक न्याय की चिंता करेंगे, जाति जनगणना करेंगे, लेकिन सामाजिक न्याय के एक मोर्चे पे सामाजिक न्याय के नीतीश हों, तेजस्वी हों और लालू जी हों, सबने लोगों को ठगने का काम किया है। इनको ये पछता नहीं है कि देश में संविधान के सर्वोच्च स्थान पे आज एक आदिवासी की बेटी बैठी है। आपका जो पूरा प्रोपेगेंडा है, आप एक्सपोज हो गए हैं।
आदरणीय आनंद मोहन जी के रिहाई का रास्ता तो साफ हो ही गया था, और उनके रिहाई में सारे नियम कानून कायदे का पालन किया गया है। उनकी रिहाई हुई है, उनके साथ 26 और लोगों की रिहाई हुई है। हमें नहीं लगता है कि इसमें इतने हाई तौबा मचाने की ज़रूरत है। आनंद मोहन जी ने पूरी सज़ा 15.5 वर्षों तक जेल में काटी है और जेल में रहते हुए जो उनका आचरण रहा एक सभ्य नागरिक वाला, वो एक आदर्श प्रस्तुत उन्होंने किया है और वो कोई दुर्दांत अपराधी नहीं थे। हत्या में उनका नाम आया, माननीय न्यायालय ने दोषी पाया, लेकिन डायरेक्ट कोई उनका हत्या में नहीं था।
जो काम माननीय न्यायालय का है और सरकार कहीं न कहीं अपनी विकृत मानसिकता से ग्रसित होकर ये कुख्यात अपराधियों को आनंद मोहन के नाम पर 2 दर्जन से ज़्यादा लोगों को छोड़ने का जो खेल खेल रहा है, ये गलत है। और भारतीय जनता पार्टी साफ कह रही है कि अपराधी और भ्रष्टाचारी के साथ कोई सहानुभूति नहीं होनी चाहिए। बिहार के लोग शर्मसार महसूस कर रहे हैं। ये बड़े भाई छोटे भाई हमेशा अपराधियों के पक्ष में खड़ा होकर बिहार की जनता की तबाही और बर्बादी की कहानी लिखी है।
आनंद मोहन जी पर आरोप लगते हैं। इस हत्या में उनकी संलिप्तता को लेकर लंबे समय तक न्यायालय में केस चलता है। अंत में सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के द्वारा फैसला सुनाया जाता है। वो उम्र कैद की सजा काटते हैं। सजा काटने के बाद कानूनी प्रावधानों के तहत वो जेल से बाहर आते हैं, उनकी रिहाई होती है। यह सब कानूनी प्रक्रिया है। हम लोग न्यायालय के फैसले का, कानून का सम्मान करते हैं। इसको अन्यथा ही कुछ लोग राजनीति से जोड़कर देख रहे हैं ताकि उनका राजनीतिक लाभ हो सके।
The first batch of the 360 Indians from crisis-hit Sudan arrived in the national capital last evening under Operation Kaveri. The External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar said India welcomes back its own. Close to 3,000 Indians will be brought back home over the next 2 to 3 days. 2 more flights carrying Indians are expected to land in the national capital today. India has been using 2 C-130J military transport aircraft and warship INS Sumedha to evacuate more than 530 citizens from Sudan. Under Operation Kaveri, India is taking the evacuees to the Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah and then transporting them back to India. Another Indian aircraft with 128 more Indians on board arrived at Jeddah this morning. The MOS for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, is in Jeddah to oversee this entire evacuation mission.
Under the Operation Kaveri, which has been started by Indian government to evacuate the stranded Indians in Sudan, the first commercial flight carrying Indians stranded in Sudan has arrived in New Delhi. The flight had 360 passengers on board. Many passengers are still in Jeddah. For them, second flight is being arranged by Indian government. And in fact, the second round of evacuation is currently underway from Port Sudan. Now, situation on ground is complicated, and despite ceasefire being announced by both warring groups, despite truce being announced by warring groups, there is less implementation of the same on ground. And this is perhaps the reason that situation still remains complicated. What the people, those who have been rescued, are telling us is that Khartoum, in and around Khartoum, the 100 kilometers of Khartoum, the fight is going on. Though that particular area is worst affected, and in fact post that the situation is comparatively peaceful. All those who have been evacuated were in touch with the Indian embassy through a WhatsApp group, and they did take a road route from Khartoum to Port Sudan, and from Port Sudan. They have been evacuated in 3 batches. Some embarked on INS Sumedha. The other 2 batches were sent to Jeddah via C-130J Indian Air Force transport aircraft. Now, estimate figure is 500, those who have been evacuated. The second round of evacuation is still going on. We have been told that a second round of truce has been brokered, and India is now eyeing on second round of evacuation to Port Sudan.
In terms of evacuating, I would say the job which is done by Indian government, we are hands off to it, and the support Indian Air Force or Indian Navy which has provided, that is also excellent. Moreover, not over the support, even when you board the ship or you board the aircraft, the way how they act with you, it's like you are coming home.
हाँ, खाना मिलता था, खाना कंपनी में कोई दिक्कत नहीं था, दिक्कत लोकल के था कि सामने आके गोली कनपट्टी पे रखते थे, पैसे दो, मोबाइल दो, मोबाइल लिए, पैसे ले लिए सर।
सुरक्षित थे? हम लोग अपने मकान में छुपे थे, खाना पीना नहीं खाते थे, नहीं मिल रहा था।
कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं यहाँ भारत में?
उत्तर प्रदेश, यूपी। ये गवर्नमेंट हर तरह से अपने बेस्ट पॉसिबल जो हो सकता है वो कर रही है, बट अभी का जो मेन चैलेंज है खार्तूम से पोर्ट सुडान आना अभी भी चैलेंज है। वहाँ की हालत इसमें बहुत ही दयनीय है। वहाँ 12 साल के बच्चे AK-47 उठा चुके हैं और वहाँ पर पॉलिटिक्स की लड़ाई है। बस वहाँ क्या है कि
आपके साथ क्या हुआ?
हमारे साथ वो लोग आए हैं और हमारी पूरी कंपनी को लूट लिए। हमारे जितने इंडियन भाई थे उनको सब लूट लिए, किसी के पास एक पैसे नहीं छोड़े। सारा
मारपीट भी किया आप लोगों के साथ?
नहीं, वो बोले कि हम इंडियन को, चाइना, अमेरिका 3 को नहीं मारेंगे, बाकी कोई होगा हम उसको मार देंगे।
सर 1000 किलोमीटर के सफर में डर बना था, लेकिन सर वहाँ की जो मिलिट्री है उन्होंने भी काफी सपोर्ट किया, जो पारामिलिट्री है रास्ते में उन्होंने भी काफी सपोर्ट किया। सिर्फ आपको ये बोलना था कि हम इंडियन हैं, आई मीन
इंडियन की मदद कर रहे थे।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर, रेस्पेक्ट भी करते हैं इंडियन की।
मतलब कहीं जो सरकार की तरफ से दबाव था कि इंडियंस को कुछ नहीं।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर, और हमें तो मोदी जी की सरकार पे ऐसे ही बहुत ज्यादा फख्र था।
अच्छा,
Look, there is a mechanism for naming such operations, and you have seen in the past, we have also used operation like Operation Ganga. I think it was mentioned earlier on, also named after a river. But there is no sort of fixed rule, etc., to do that. There is a certain consideration which goes into it, and the name is picked up.
Let's also now bring in our colleague Akash, who in fact has been tracking these developments as far as the evacuation process is concerned. Akash, there is no words as far as these evacuation process is concerned, and you can hear that from the people who've been evacuated. They're thanking the government, they're thanking the timely intervention. The first flight has already arrived. Talk to us in terms of numbers. How many people have already reached India? How many more flights are expected right through the day?
Right, so first batch of Indians landed here last night at around 9 p.m. if I'm not wrong, and 360 was the initial number, and also we are expecting one Indian Air Force flight today in Mumbai, where we have 246 Indians on board. Also, as far as these numbers are concerned, so we have been told that 220 Indians are there in Port Sudan, and also as far as Jeddah is concerned, so around 500 Indians are there in Jeddah. The main challenge as of now is the journey from Khartoum to Port Sudan, and we have been told that authorities are somewhere using the land corridor of around 850 kilometers. The challenging part, because you see the situation is very tense in that particular area, and the whole focus of Indian government and as well as the officials that have been deployed here is the evacuation part, and that is the reason why not only just Indian Air Force but Indian Navy has been deployed there, and we are taking help of Indian naval ships and also aircrafts. So 3,500 is the number that has been given just few minutes back, and in fact going by the numbers that were given in the morning, around 700 people have been evacuated till now. Limited time we have, and a large number of people are there. So the whole focus is on evacuation, and Indian authorities are working in that direction, Ridhima.
Right. Akash, so as you said, yes, the evacuation process is in full swing. We're expecting more flights to land in India today. But what is still the challenging part? As you pointed out, that entire journey that they have to make, because the fighting is still on between the military and the paramilitary. What are the challenges that many are facing to even reach areas from where they can be evacuated?
Right. So, you know, as far as this ceasefire is concerned, that was initially given, the 72 hours window was there. But now we are learning that situation is back to what we had before ceasefire, and the distance from Khartoum and in fact from all other local places, because Indians are, you know, not just living at Port Sudan or nearby places. They are spreaded, you know, the people are basically living at different places in that particular country. And this is the reason why they are facing challenges, because they have to move to Port Sudan in, you know, in order to get evacuated and come to India. And that is the reason why authorities are again and again mentioning that, you know, they are trying their level best as far as this evacuation part is concerned, and also they are in touch with the authorities of Sudan so that, you know, all Indians can be evacuated as soon as possible.
Right. We'll just request you to stay on with us, Akash. We're getting some other breaking developments also now coming in. While we're understanding, as this evacuation process still continues, you have another C-17 that is now taken off from Jeddah with another 246 passengers. So more Indians will be reaching their hometowns, their home soil very, very soon. Akash continues to be with us. And Akash, this is what we were discussing, that it's in full swing. They're ensuring that all the Indians can be brought back to India as soon as possible. So we're understanding another C-17 now has loaded passengers, about 246 in them. Some pictures on your screens as well. Let's bring in Abhishek also in the conversation. Abhishek, talk to us about the other flight which is also expected to take off and then reach India.
C-17 Indian Air Force aircraft is taking off from Jeddah, and it will be coming to Bombay somewhere in the afternoon. About 246 Indians who have been evacuated from Sudan are on board. We have seen last night also about 360 passengers or the stranded Indians were brought by a Saudi plane, a charter plane that ME has arranged for them. And this will be the second flight that is taking off from Jeddah, bringing Indians back to home. From here, they will be facilitated for their respective destination. And also other planes and other flights are very much being planned with either by the Indian Air Force aircraft or with the help of another charter planes. Officials have told us that they have been in touch with Indian aviation operators also about the availability of planes and the timings when they can actually take off and land at the various Indian destinations. So this has been a very fast-moving operation. Maoist Muralidharan has been on ground facilitating every possible aspect of this whole operation and ensuring that all the Indians who are reaching to Jeddah are given essentials like food and shelters and every possible thing that they are in need right now.
Abhishek, that's exactly what I wanted to understand from you. Every person who's been evacuated is thanking the government because they're saying we can see the comparison. If you're an Indian, the kind of respect and the kind of treatment that is being given vis-a-vis the others who actually are losing their lives. What is the kind of diplomatic work that is taken for India to have this situation where its citizens can be evacuated?
So we just had a press conference by Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra where he has kind of explained the whole evacuation process and how Indian government has been in touch with every single organization and the political parties who have some sort of stake in Sudan right now. In fact, Indian government the officials have been in touch with RSF people and Sudanese army officials as well, because we know that these two sides have been warring and the differences between the two sides have created this whole fluid situation that is currently going on in Sudan. Despite various parts of cities, like especially the Khartoum, which is the capital city of Sudan, being in a conflict zone, most of the time we are not seeing much of the crisis happening against Indians. In fact, people who have been evacuated from these places have told us that wherever they said their identity and they told the guards that they are Indians, they were given felicitation and they were given a pass and nobody stopped them on the route. In fact, Sudanese people are also coming in full support to all the stranded people, not only Indians but others also. So it has been on the ground, except the warring factions of the two army and paramilitary. Sure. Most of the people in Sudan, they have been very cooperative with for the stranded people.
Okay, Abhishek and Akash, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We'll keep tracking all those developments as more Indians are brought back to India under Operation Kaveri. Time for us to slip into a very short break. We're coming back with lots more.
Army and I hope Chhattisgarh police, they can be well trained in Kanker, and they have to come to the expectation.
See,
like
you
Andhra and
cannot
Telangana,
drop your guard.
they have done through Greyhound.
One cannot drop their their guard at all. The Greyhounds are an example. They're but every time there is a slip up, there is carelessness, there is loss of lives. And Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, PK Mishra ji, Dhruv Katoji, you are all veterans. You've handled explosives, especially and you know how much explosive is required to get to blow up a road that is more than 10 feet wide, and to blow a hole in that road which is more than 3.5 to 4 feet deep. So Lieutenant General Kulkarni, for somebody to be able to sow that kind of explosives and plant them on that road, which is a tarred road. If you see the road, it's a tarred road on either side. But look at that crater. That's a huge, that's a lot of explosive that has been planted there.
Yeah.
5 feet deep crater is what we are given to understand. General Kulkarni.
You know, what has happened is extremely sad. Something which is avoidable, because we have to have actionable end. Much that everything has been done at all levels. It's very easy to blame so and so should have done this, so and so. What happens is the people on the ground, the boys who are there, maybe the DRG, which are the local tribals as it is brought out, who have been trained or not trained or partially trained into this kind of thing. A kind of complacency sets in. And even last time, if I recollect it, in 2010 or something, when in April, when we lost about 75, when they returned back from operations, this is what happened. We have, until and unless we have good intelligence coming in, we have to have our eyes and ears everywhere. Human end, technical end, kind of mobile tasks that are required to be there. The terrain is extremely, totally jungle. It's not easy. I understand it's not easy. That's the reason one has been there. But notwithstanding that, you find a lot has been done. At a point of time, there were 140 districts affected. They came down to 76. And now that we are just about 46 districts. And who is responsible for most of the 95% of the death, and 90% of all of it is CPIM Maoist. These are the people who are involved into it. So it is a very small fraction, and we have to keep a tag of it.
Let's go straight across to T.S. Singh Devji, Cabinet Minister, Chhattisgarh, joining us. Namaste. Thank you for speaking with us here at CNN News 18. My first question to you, Mr. Dev. Were these DRG personnel as good as sitting ducks? Only 10 of them deployed for an anti-Naxal operation.
Not really. As far as I know, though I'm not in Raipur, I'm not in Chhattisgarh today. I'm in Bhopal with my family. But the information that has come in that this blast took place at about 12:45 in the afternoon. After the group was returning from a exchange of fire with the Naxalites. This is about 45 kilometers south of Dantewada, which is the district headquarters. And it was a convoy of vehicles. This was not a single vehicle. There's not just 10 people. There were 10 people in the civilian vehicle, of course camouflaged, who were affected by the IED blast and who were martyred. 10 police personnel and 1 driver, civilian driver. All local boys, all district force boys, I think. All of them were tribal boys. And Yadav, I think, was the driver. So we lost these 11 people today, very sadly.
But these personnel were traveling in a vehicle instead of going on foot, Mr. Dev. They used the same route twice, which is again not the SOP. So why were the standard operating procedures not followed?
I am really not aware of the geographical terrain there. Were there other routes available? Were they not available? I am frankly not aware of that. And there are suggestions given in these SOPs that you could take another route, etc. But if there is one road going in and one road going out, you don't have an option. I am frankly not aware of that, so I cannot really speak authoritatively on that. And
welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Some breaking developments now coming in. Amid the wrestlers versus Brij Bhushan, the physio of the wrestlers has also now joined the protesting dharna. And she's gone on to say that he gave a complaint in 2014 as 3 to 4 girls had given a complaint to him of physical and sexual harassment, but no action was taken. Let's listen into that conversation.
आपने ओवरसाइट कमेटी को भी अपना बयान दिया था, क्या बयान था सर वो, और क्या आप संतुष्ट हैं जो भी काम हुआ है अभी तक?
देखिए, जो ओवरसाइट कमेटी बनी थी उन्होंने हमारा बयान लिया था, उसमें करीबन 25 के करीब हम लोग थे, जिसमें महिलाएं रेसलर भी थी और कुछ बजरंग, दीपक जो इंटरनेशनल कई रेसलर थे वो थे, और मैं भी था। तो ओवरसाइट कमेटी ने हमें बोला था कि विद इन 3 और 4 वीक्स हम लोग आपकी जो ये बयान है वो हम ऊपर स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में दे देंगे। और जो खेल मंत्री थे अनुराग ठाकुर, उनसे भी हमारी बात हुई थी, उन्होंने भी कहा था कि 1 महीने में हम आपकी जो बात को निपटा देंगे, जो ठीक बात है उसको कर देंगे, यानी जो जिसको जो न्याय मिलना चाहिए मिलेगा। लेकिन 3 महीने हो गए हैं, अभी तक कोई भी ना कमेटी की तरफ से कोई जवाब आया है, ना कोई स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर की तरफ से जवाब आया है। और जबकि हमें पता लगा कि जो कमेटी को हमने बयान दिए थे वो भी तोड़ मरोड़ के उन्होंने आगे पेश किए।
क्या कंप्लेंट्स आई थी सर, और आपने जब रिस्पॉन्ड किया तो किस तरह से रिस्पॉन्ड किया उन कंप्लेंट्स पर?
देखिए, 2014 में मैं गीता फोगाट का जो पर्सनल फिटनेस ट्रेनर था, मैं कैंप में मौजूद था, तब वहाँ इस तरह की बातें आई थी, तो मैंने सबसे पहले मीडिया में दिया था 2014 में। लेकिन बात को मीडिया ने दबा दिया, वो लोग इतने पावरफुल थे। 5-6 लड़कियों की कंप्लेंट आई थी।
क्या कंप्लेंट थी?
कंप्लेंट तो यही थी कि हमारा मानसिक और शारीरिक जो शोषण हो रहा है, वही कंप्लेंट थी।
Let's also now bring in our colleague Anshul, who in fact has been tracking these developments. Anshul, this is a big allegation that has been made as far as the protest is concerned. The physio is saying there was a complaint filed, but no heed was paid. Is he giving details in terms of who did he approach after no heed was paid to the complaint?
Well, yes, definitely. As you rightly mentioned, the allegations are actually very, very serious in nature. And Paramjit, who was a physio at that point in time, had said that he had even approached the women's coach also at that point, and who was Kuldeep Singh, another wrestler who was the coach of the women's team in Lucknow. And even after that, he did not give any sort of heed to all these allegations, and the entire process went in the same manner. And this time around also, when the oversight committee was formed, he was asked to come there and record his statements. And after he's still alleging that even after he recorded his statements, even though the oversight committee had told him that action would be taken on his word, and his statement would be projected in the right manner, no action. He's still alleging that no action has been taken by the oversight committee of his statement till today, and hence they are continuing with this protest. I remember when this incident happened in 2014. He's alleging that these were minor girls who were actually being harassed mentally and sexually as well. And even after that, the entire system knew that something like this was happening on the instance of Brij Bhushan Sharan. And since he was the head of Wrestling Federation of India, no action, absolutely no action was taken or no heed was given to those complaints. So yes, the allegations that are coming to the fore are actually very, very serious in nature. What remains to be seen as to how quickly can the government now intervene and make sure that these wrestlers who are sitting on protest at Dantewada for the last 5 days, their protest comes to an end, and justice is finally served to all those victims who claim that they have been sexually harassed by Brij Bhushan Sharan.
Anshul, I just want to go back to what the physio is now telling us here at CNN News 18. He's saying he filed a complaint, no heed was paid. He even approached the oversight panel. Can you talk to us about the members of the oversight panel?
So the oversight panel, the members of the oversight panel are not speaking officially to the media as of now, and even the report that they have submitted is said to be a confidential report. So nobody knows that what is actually in that report that they have submitted at this point in time, because there is a confidentiality clause that comes into play. So. Sure. It is being alleged that they did not give heed to these complaints and to these statements that were against Brij Bhushan Sharan. But if at all their allegations are true or not, that will only come to the fore when the sports ministry actually takes note of the report that has been submitted to them, and if at all the sports ministry deems necessary that any sort of action is required against Brij Bhushan Sharan. So yes, that is something that remains to be seen as to what will the sports ministry do and how will they act on the report that has been submitted to them by this oversight committee that was formed just a few months ago.
Anshul, we'll just request you to stay on with us. Let's play out that conversation once again that the physio of the wrestlers in fact had with CNN News 18 and the allegations that he's made.
आपने ओवरसाइट कमेटी को भी अपना बयान दिया था, क्या बयान था सर वो, और क्या आप संतुष्ट है जो भी काम हुआ है अभी तक?
देखिए, जो ओवरसाइट कमेटी बनी थी उन्होंने हमारा बयान लिया था, उसमें करीबन 25 के करीब हम लोग थे, जिसमें महिलाएं रेसलर भी थी और कुछ बजरंग, दीपक जो इंटरनेशनल कई रेसलर थे वो थे, और मैं भी था। तो ओवरसाइट कमेटी ने हमें बोला था कि विद इन 3 और 4 वीक्स हम लोग आपकी जो ये बयान है वो हम ऊपर स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में दे देंगे। और जो खेल मंत्री थे अनुराग ठाकुर, उनसे भी हमारी बात हुई थी, उन्होंने भी कहा था कि 1 महीने में हम आपकी जो बात को निपटा देंगे, जो ठीक बात है उसको कर देंगे, यानी जो जिसको जो न्याय मिलना चाहिए मिलेगा। लेकिन 3 महीने हो गए हैं, अभी तक कोई भी ना कमेटी की तरफ से कोई जवाब आया है, ना कोई स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर की तरफ से जवाब आया है। और जबकि हमें पता लगा कि जो कमेटी को हमने बयान दिए थे वो भी तोड़ मरोड़ के उन्होंने आगे पेश किए।
क्या कंप्लेंट्स आई थी सर, और आपने जब रिस्पॉन्ड किया तो किस तरह से रिस्पॉन्ड किया उन कंप्लेंट्स पर?
देखिए, 2014 में मैं गीता फोगाट का जो पर्सनल फिटनेस ट्रेनर था, मैं कैंप में मौजूद था, तब वहाँ इस तरह की बातें आई थी, तो मैंने सबसे पहले मीडिया में दिया था 2014 में। लेकिन बात को मीडिया ने दबा दिया, वो लोग इतने पावरफुल थे। 5-6 लड़कियों की कंप्लेंट आई थी।
क्या कंप्लेंट थी?
कंप्लेंट तो यही थी कि हमारा मानसिक और शारीरिक जो शोषण हो रहा है, वही कंप्लेंट थी।
So the physio of the wrestlers also now joining the protest and the dharna and saying that yes, there was a complaint in fact filed by him, but there was no action taken. He even approached the oversight panel, but all of this was hushed up. Anshul continues to be with us. Anshul, going back to the protest and dharna, this is something that we've been discussing every single day, that this is such a sad reality that our athletes, people who've won medals and laurels for the country today, have to spend their precious time protesting on the roads rather than use that time for their training, which can be used for upcoming championships as well. What is the word that's coming in as far as the wrestlers is concerned?
Well, the wrestlers this time around are very, very adamant, because they say that they made a mistake last time around when they believed on this oversight committee and went away from the protest. And now, since this entire committee has submitted its report, they are still not very satisfied with the manner in which this entire investigation has gone on. So now they are very, very adamant and say that they are not going to move away from this protest until and that FIR is registered against Bhushan Sharan in this entire matter, and post that FIR investigation takes place and action is taken against him at the earlier. So yes, the demands are very uptick right now, and they are making sure that they are not going to back down until and unless all their demands are fulfilled this time around. So yes.
So as Anshul is pointing out, wrestlers are adamant that they will continue to protest till the time their demands are met. Anshul, we'll request you to stay on with us. Some other breaking developments also now coming in. Now, amid this stir and protest by the wrestlers, there's also the first reaction that we're now getting to here on CNN News 18 from the ex-WFI boss Brij Bhushan. Let's listen in.
जिस दिन मैं अपने जीवन की समीक्षा करूंगा, क्या खोया क्या पाया, और जिस दिन मैं महसूस करूंगा कि मेरे संघर्ष करने की क्षमता अब समाप्त हो गई है, जिस दिन मैं महसूस करूंगा मैं लाचार हूं, मैं बेचारा हूं, ऐसी जिंदगी जीना मैं पसंद नहीं करूंगा और चाहूंगा ऐसी जिंदगी जीने के पहले कि मृत्यु मेरे करीब आ जाए.
So that was the first reaction of Brij Bhushan, the ex-chief as far as the Wrestlers Federation of India is concerned, at a time when the wrestlers still continue to protest. This is a developing story. We'll keep tracking all these developments. With that, it's a wrap from my side, but news continues here on CNN News 18 with my colleague Toya. Hi, Toya.
Hi, Ridhima. Thank you. Good afternoon. You're watching the news right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh. This is the Breaking News Show. Over the next 1 hour, we're going to be bringing you all of the country's top breaking news stories. Our first story, though, is a development coming in from the reaction and the incident that took place in Chattisgarh yesterday. A wire has been found at the crime scene in Dantewada. Sources are saying that a bunch of wires suspected have been used to trigger the IED. What is the larger context of the story we're discussing? You remember that yesterday an IED blast killed 10 security personnel in the Dantewada region of Chattisgarh. This is the story that we're covering right now. As we told you, and you can see this on your screens right now, wire has been found from the crime scene. Now, you'll remember just a few minutes ago, we actually shared with you a video from the crime scene in which you could hear two men, and it was not possible to identify who those two men were, but you could hear men talking about the explosion in the distance. You could also see part of the wire in that video. Now, the incident that took place yesterday, 10 security personnel and a driver, 11 people in total, were killed in an improvised explosive device blast, an IED blast carried out by Maoists in Chattisgarh's Dantewada region on Wednesday afternoon. Now, the incident took place under Aranpur police station limits when a team of the state police's DRG, that's the District Reserve Guard, they were returning after an anti-Naxalite operation. Now, it's important to keep in mind here, the District Reserve Guard is a group of the state police that is actually pulled from within the Maoist forces. So these are usually Maoists who've surrendered to the police, who've given up arms, that are recruited for this purpose. Now, my colleague Arunima is with us right now to bring us a lot more in terms of context. Arunima, we're showing our audiences visuals on one side of the wires and on the other side of the video that you shared with us a few minutes ago that had emerged from a few minutes after the blast. Could you bring us more context to the wires first, please?
Yes, before that, let me just clarify who DRGs are. They are local tribals. So some of them could have been, associated with CPI Maoists, but mostly they are tribals who live in that same area. And therefore, the risk to their life from CPI Maoists after joining police is even more. But like even now, I can tell you banners and posters have been put up in Bijapur, in Dantewada, threatening that if anybody goes and attends the funeral and the last rites of these martyrs, then they will have to face the consequences. So that is the reality of these tribals who decide to join the police force. Now, having given you the clarification, let me come back to what we are learning by way of investigation. This piece of wire that we are showing is something that investigators have recovered from ground zero. They suspect that this wire was actually used to connect the IED to the remote that was with the Naxal deep inside the jungle. So off-road, this wire was pulled all the way to the forested area. They waited to see the convoy pass, and then this wire triggered off the remote, which then set about the explosives going off, killing the 10 DRG Jawans and the one civilian driver who was driving this vehicle. There were two other vehicles ahead of this one that was blown off, but eyewitness accounts suggest that they sped away, and that speed perhaps helped them escape certain death.
Arunima, I want to ask you more context about the information we do have about the explosive. Yesterday, when we spoke to experts right after the incident, one of the things they indicated was the size of the improvised explosive. 50 kgs indicated that it was something that was the result of cumulative planning. Can you bring us more details?
Yes, the suspicion right now, after carrying out a scrutiny of the crime scene, preliminary forensic test, what the investigators believe and they suspect is that this was high-grade explosive, perhaps a nitrate compound that was used. The suspicion is that there are a lot of mining activity going on in this area. Bastar is known for its natural resources. There are coal mines also in this area. And to blast off the coal and to extract the coal, often the local companies utilize high-grade explosives. The suspicion is that Naxals either looted this nitrate compound or there was some kind of pilferage that happened that was then utilized in this particular blast. And how was that explosive packed off at the crime scene? The scrutiny of the crime scene has led investigators to believe that a foxhole-like tunnel was dug up just below the road. There was care taken to ensure that the black top of the road was not disturbed, so that if a road opening party went, they did not see any digging activity on the top side of the road, and therefore they wouldn't have thought that anything was amiss. They could have spotted the soil that was dug up, so care was taken that even that was hidden away from plain eyesight. Now investigators have located that soil dumped a few meters away near a pond, which is also off-road. So that pond, the banks of that pond was utilized by the alleged Naxals to dump the soil. That explains why the road opening party or even the convoy, when it was traveling, did not find anything amiss as far as the road is concerned. So the wire, the tunnel, the dumping of the soil away, and then using high-grade explosives together, this makes investigators suspect that this was a planning that was going on at least for 7 to 8 days. Perhaps the digging operation was going on at night. This is a forested area, and therefore at night there is very little movement, and that could have helped the Naxals escape scrutiny.
Arunima, if you could just stay with us. Security expert Pratikrit Prain is also with us right now on the phone. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us here on CNN News 18. Sir, we're showing for our audiences on the left side of their screens visuals that are just coming out from the region that was affected yesterday. And it seems that police and investigative agencies have been able to locate the wires that might have been used in the IED. Sir, just looking at these visuals, what are your first takeaways as a security analyst?
Well, I was hearing what Arunima said, and I agree to a great extent, that there has been a certain level of planning because, it takes a certain level of digging. It does take certain amount of finding out the place. If it is a remote detonation or whether it's a pressure bomb, we are not yet clear. In that kind of a scenario, they would actually find the place out. They'll have to find out a place where they can hide and have look into exactly when the vehicle is coming and to detonate the bomb at exactly the point when that vehicle moves over the bomb. I mean, there's a lot of planning that happens. See, what happens is that, number one, especially when any kind of convoy or even a vehicle comes back, that's the time, the guards are a little down because they're a little in a hurry to come down. And beyond a point in such remote locations, there is an enormous amount of difficulty to prevent this kind of attack unless the SOPs are maintained in terms of making sure that nobody uses any kind of pickup vehicles or any kind of four-wheelers for any kind of traveling. The best way in these kind of scenario is always to use two-wheelers. In fact, the whole concept of using two-wheelers for any kind of movement was started and initiated for the first time by the Sri Lankan army while fighting the LTT. Later on, we saw in a large segment, the Central Police Forces have been using it. Unfortunately, while the District Reserve Guards are extremely brave, they are mostly tribals. Sometimes they have been accused of being a little, with all due respect, a little indisciplined. They have often been found to be violating the basic SOPs. My sincere condolence to all the martyrs. But unfortunately, this kind of a situation where you are almost in a military-grade conflict, at no point of time you can lower your guards. There is nothing called an area which is no more a Maoist area, because even though the core area of the Maoist bastion is shrinking, these are mobile forces who come and actually do the detonation and run away. In most cases, they use these kind of IEDs because for them bullets are far more precious. They are not available. These kind of IEDs they make with mostly ammonium nitrate, which is available as a fertilizer. So I think the best way out in this kind of a scenario to make sure this kind of attack doesn't happen is to make sure that the SOPs are followed, especially not use any kind of pickup vehicles. Even mine protection vehicles are not also good enough beyond the point. They cannot hold off an explosion if the amount of explosive use is more than 30 kg. That's number one. And secondly, as the Maoists go back to their own area, their area of domination shrinks, the central forces and the state police forces move into their area, you may see the number of attacks coming down, but the intensity of attacks may rise. And we have an example of that. Central police forces, from my own personal experience of moving with them in the past, are far more strict and rigid in terms of following the SOPs. Unfortunately, in certain times it has been found that the state forces are a little more lethargic in terms of following it to the last
Mr. Payne, if I could just ask you to stay with us. Former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, SP Vaid, is also with us this afternoon on the show. Sir, thank you for joining us this afternoon on CNN News 18. Sir, in the efforts involved for the preparation before yesterday's attack, you obviously have the state police involved and the CRPF involved. We know that in the last year, the CRPF has continued to remain particularly aggressive. I believe, according to some data, they've set up 20 forward operation bases in just this last 1 year in Bastar alone. So there isn't a lack when it comes to the bases that are being set up and the area that is being covered. The CRPF continues to enlarge its footprint. Sir, do you think there's a need for more aggression here? How do you look at the situation?
No, there's no doubt about the CRPF and the local police doing tremendous job. That's why the red terror has come down drastically. While we only few years back, before 2014, I think 6-7 states were affected, and so many districts. I think roughly 75 districts were involved, and now number has come down. I think less than half, and state very few areas are left. But yes, we need to be very, very careful because the presence continues to be there. And we don't want casualties like yesterday, what happened yesterday. So all these SOPs need to be followed. All those preventive steps need to be taken. Those areas which are vulnerable and known to the police and security forces, they should prefer walking rather than using normal vehicle, unless you have a mine-proof vehicle. So, because when you are walking, I don't think the chances of ambush are very high. You limit the chances of attacks like this, use of mine. But yes, the relentless operations must continue of whatever remnants have been left, I think, and the government's push, both central government and state government, working in coordination, that push should continue on all fronts, including operation on security fronts.
All right, so thank you for joining us here on CNN News 18. I want to go back to my colleague Arunima, who stays with us on this story. Arunima, when we spoke to both the security expert, all right, we'll try to re-establish our connection with my colleague. She has been with us on this story since the story first broke yesterday. Let's bring you more context on this story. Security expert Pratikrit Prain remains with us on the show to bring us context on this entire story. Mr. Payne, I just want to understand from you, the attack that took place yesterday, the one that we are focusing on, had the special unit of the DRG. That is the unit that suffered the losses. I want to understand from you, sir, most experts agree that by the DRG being targeted multiple times in the last few years, there is a clear message that is trying to be sent to tribals and to locals in the area. So I just want to ask you, how should administration navigate when you have a message like that, that the Naxals are attempting to give?
Well, firstly, there is a considerable level of disillusionment among the tribals, and the tribals no more look at the Maoists as their saviors, as their mentors, as their protectors. The Maoists have done enough harm to the tribals, and that's why you see for a long period of time over the last 1 decade or so, a considerable number of tribals have moved away from the Maoist movement or being sympathetic towards them, and a large number of them have joined the security forces. In fact, if you look at District Reserve Guard, which is DRG, DRG consists of mostly of those people who were part of the erstwhile movement called Salva Judum that was organized and created as a formal state police force. Most of these are tribals, and let me tell you, DRG as an organization has been extremely effective in terms of countering the Maoists, because they consist primarily of local tribals. They know the terrain, they know the language, they are people of the forest. They are completely in tune with the region. They know they know how to operate. They know the Maoist tactics also. So on most occasions, the DRG has been so effective that Maoists at times are more scared of the DRG than probably other forces. The DRG consists almost around 3,500 personnel, and much like the greyhounds of Andhra Pradesh, they are very, very effective. And let me tell you, DRG is also trained by at certain levels by the Counter-insurgency and Jungle Warfare Training School at Vairangate, even by the greyhounds. But one problem with the DRG is this: I don't think this attack will, stop the tribals from joining the forces. The Bastaria Battalion is a great example of how CRPF is training the tribals. And in fact, whether it is the Koya Commando Force or the Salva Judum, it is because these were formed by the local tribals to wage war against the Maoists who were collecting taxes for them, preventing them from going into the forest. I don't think it will prevent the tribals, but one thing is very clear: the DRG has to be far more disciplined. There's a problem in terms of being a little casual. They're a little desperate. They do not follow the SOPs. Unfortunately, because of that, often precious lives have been lost. With the highest respect to their martyrdom.
Do stay with us. Thank you for giving us that context. I want to go back to my colleague Arunima, who stays with us. Arunima, when we spoke to former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, SP Vaid, and when we spoke to Pratikrit Pain, the security analyst who remained with us, both pointed out that a car should should not have been involved. Either they should have been on foot or a bike should have been involved. I just want to understand what security forces have told you about that aspect, Arunima.
See, the SOP is very clear. The SOP says that when you're going for an operation, if you must travel on a vehicle, it has to be a two-wheeler. There has to be a distance between the two motorbikes so that if one goes off, at least the others are safe. They are then in a position, they are a little far back, and they are in a position to save themselves. Or you carry one of those heavy-duty anti-mine vehicles which are saved even if they are blown away. But if you're carrying 200 DRG personnel, it is not the kind of resources that we are talking about. For DRG at least, the 200 people can be sent in one of those vehicles. I think the vehicle can accommodate only about 4 to 5. The mistakes are more than that. Even if you decided to be in a vehicle, the moment you hire a private vehicle, two of these, one that was blown off, the second is the Scorpio, whose driver actually shot that video, which we now managed to put on air. Both of these are private vehicles. They are not police vehicles. The moment you hire a private vehicle, the word goes out because that person from which you're renting the vehicle is also a local. And these Naxal local people, they have not come from across the border somewhere. They live their daily life among these troubles, among these locals. And therefore, word goes out, giving away your movement plan. That's mistake number 2. The third mistake, now we are being told that perhaps the tunnel was dug in a way that even if it was an ROP, they missed out on what was going on the road. But was any sanitization done? Was there a proper road opening done before this convoy moved? That's something that the police leadership will have to ask itself. And the last question, even though more difficult to implement than it is said, the SOP is that when you're traveling up, ensure that while you travel down, you don't take the same road. This road is the main highway, so to say, which connects Dantewada to Jagargunda. So it's the main road towards Arhanpur. But if you are traveled up this road, could you have taken an alternative route to come back? That is also something that's a violation of SOP, and answers must be given by those who were responsible for the DRG's back movement.
Okay, Arunima, thank you for bringing us that context. Arunima, again, if I could ask you to stay with us, let's go back to Pratikrit Payne, the security expert who remains with us. Mr. Payne, if we take a step back from this story itself and I ask you for an overview of the larger situation, one of the sort of summaries that analysts have of this situation is that though we have successfully been able to battle this issue in a number of other states, in Chhattisgarh, it remains an issue for a multiplicity of reasons, the largest perhaps being that the usage of locals is still a relatively new, decade-old phenomenon when it comes to Chhattisgarh. So is that an analysis you agree with, or are there other reasons that you think it continues to pertain here?
Well, the use of locals, I think it has been going on for more than 1.5 decades now. Yes, more and more locals are now joining the forces. And in Chhattisgarh, the most difficult issue is that there are areas in Chhattisgarh where probably the administration had not entered for several decades. So now that they're entering these new regions, the terrain is a very, very difficult one. I have been into Chhattisgarh. I know the kind of difficult terrain these places, especially the Dandakarana region consisting of 4-5 districts, the kind of difficult terrain it is. That is number one issue. Number two issue is very important, is what are the priorities of the state government in terms of where they should invest. I think BRG as a force is pretty well equipped in terms of weapon systems, but what they require, as Arunima also mentioned, is that they need two-wheelers. They need a large number of two-wheelers. That is where they have to without any doubt, the state will have to invest having two-wheelers. The third is that, what is very important is that when you have a conflict like this, even though they have been trained, and I repeat, certain sections of, DRG has been trained by at the Counter-insurgency and Jungle Warfare Training School in Vairangate. Some have been trained by Greyhound. What is important is that you do not lower your guard when you are coming back. You see that most of these attacks, DRG faced similar attacks a few years back as well, in a similar pattern of using a local vehicle. Issue is when you return, you should not lower your guard. Correct. That's where they are tired. And of course, again, I repeat, Arunima mentioned, the fact is that in many cases, an unfortunate issue is this: while the constabulary consists of locals, the officers of DRG are not locals. They are non-tribals. So there is some way, I think it would be better if their leadership is also tribal. In that case, the synergy between the officers and the constabulary would be better.
Mr. Payne, thank you for bringing us that context. Arunima, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for bringing us that context. All right, in this story, it is important to now hear how the administration has responded. This is what the Chief Minister of Chattisgarh, Bhupesh Baghel, had to say. Take a look.
घटना स्थल पे एक नक्सलियों के साथ मुठभेड़ हुआ, एक नक्सली घायल हुआ और एक नक्सली को पकड़ लिए और घायल नक्सली और जो जिन्हें गिरफ्तार किया गया था उसको लेकर वापस आ रहे थे। बस हमारे DRG के जवान और एक सिविलियन की शहादत हुई। ये लड़ाई और लड़ी जाएगी। जहाँ भी नक्सली की होने की सूचना मिलेगी, हमारे जवान अब घेर के उनके साथ मुठभेड़ कर रहे हैं, लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं।
इस पे जो DRG में जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी है, जो नक्सल पीड़ित भी है और जो नक्सल सरेंडर कैडर्स भी है, जैसे कल वाला घटना में भी उसमें तीनों प्रकार का जो थे, जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी थे, जो सरेंडर नक्सल कैडर्स भी थे और साथ साथ जो नक्सल पीड़ित थे उन्होंने भी मतलब बाद में जैसा उनका पुनर्वास नहीं दिखता तो पुलिस में उनका बल में मौका दी जाती। इस प्रकार मतलब तीनों का कॉम्बिनेशन थे। सब जिस तरीके से विगत वर्षों में हम ऑफेंसिव तरीके से काफ़ी अंदर तक आगे पहुंच चुके थे, उसका काफ़ी सकारात्मक परिणाम मैदान में देखने मिल रहे थे और निश्चित रूप से ये हमारे लिए एक सेटबैक रहा।
Okay, let's move on now to a different story. We're taking you now to Punjab, where the last rites of former Punjab Chief Minister, someone who's been the Chief Minister of Punjab 5 times, Prakash Singh Badal, was held in his ancestral village. You had top leaders from across political parties in attendance for the last rites of a man who was known as the architect of the Shrimani Akali Dal. Now, we're going to bring you more context as to all of the proceedings, but Prakash Singh Badal and his memories through this memorial were held at his native place, Badal, in the state's Muktsar district. Now, my colleague Pankaj Kapahi is with us. He joins us from News 18 India to bring us more context on this entire story. Pankaj ji, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद. पंकज जी, आप हमें बता सकते हैं प्रकाश सिंह बादल की जो लेगेसी है उसके बारे में आप हमें और बता सकते हैं प्लीज?
देखिए, सबसे यंगेस्ट सीएम जो है वो पंजाब के बने थे और सबसे ओल्डेस्ट सीएम भी जो है वो पंजाब के रहे हैं। 5 बार मुख्यमंत्री रहे, इमरजेंसी के दौरान 19 महीने जेल में रहे और लाहौर में उन्होंने अपनी पढ़ाई जो है वो की थी। वकील बनना चाहते थे लेकिन सरपंची से शुरुआत की और धीरे धीरे 5 बार सीएम जो वो बन गए और इतना बड़ा कद उनका देश की राजनीति में माना जाता है कि कल प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी खुद उनको श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए चंडीगढ़ पहुंचे और आज अक्रॉस दी पार्टी, चाहे राजस्थान के सीएम अशोक गहलोत हों, चाहे हरियाणा के पूर्व सीएम भूपेंद्र सिंह हुड्डा हों, चाहे पवन बंसल हों, चाहे पंजाब के मुख्यमंत्री भगवंत मान हों, सभी उनको श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए यहाँ पर पहुंचे और हर कोई उनको यूनिवर्सिटी सियासत की तौर पर जो है वो कहते हुए नजर आए और ये कहा कि जिस तरह से वो पंचुअल थे, जिस तरह से उनका एक डिसिप्लिन रहा है, उसको लेकर वो बहुत कुछ तमाम सियासी जो लीडर हैं उनसे सीखते रहे हैं। और क्योंकि एनडीए के सबसे पुराना अलायंस पार्टनर था जो अकाली दल, हालांकि किसान आंदोलन की वजह से अलायंस उन्होंने तोड़ दिया, लेकिन आज भी भाजपा के कुछ नेता ये कहते हुए नजर आए कि अकाली दल के साथ अलायंस होना चाहिए, उनकी विरासत को आगे जो है वो संभालना चाहिए, क्योंकि सुखबीर सिंह बादल उनके जो बेटे हैं वो डिप्टी सीएम रह चुके हैं पंजाब के। इसके अलावा सिमरत कौर बादल जो उनकी बहू हैं वो मेंबर पार्लियामेंट हैं बठिंडा से। सुखबीर सिंह बादल इस समय फिरोजपुर से मेंबर पार्लियामेंट है। तो पंजाब की सियासत का बाबा बोर्ड यानी कि सबसे पुराने दिग्गज नेता के तौर पर उनको जो है वो जाना जाता है।
सर, हमने चचेरे भाइयों को भी एकजुट होते हुए देखा कल हॉस्पिटल में, उसके बारे में आप हमें और बता सकते हैं?
देखिए, अगर जिस तरह से पिता उनके चले गए क्योंकि यूनिवर्सिटी सियासत के तौर पर माना जाता था, तो उनका एक सपना था कि सुखबीर बादल जो हैं वो सीएम बने हालांकि डिप्टी सीएम तक रहे और इस बार जो पार्टी की हालत है काफी खराब हो गई। तीसरे नंबर पर पार्टी जो है वो रह गई, महज 3 सीटों पर सिमट गई। तो जाते हुए जो आखिरी दौर था उस समय कई कठिनाइयों का सामना भी किया। एनडीए का अलायंस जो है वो टूट गया। किसानों का नेता माना जाता था, किसान उनके विरोध में आ गए और उनके जो सगे भाई हैं उनके साथ पाश और दास की जोड़ी जो है वो थी पंजाब में। हालांकि मनप्रीत बादल अलग हो गए, वो कांग्रेस में चले गए, कांग्रेस के नेता बन गए। तो आज भी बहुत सारे अकाली दल के लीडर ये कह रहे हैं कि मनप्रीत बादल को वापस अकाली दल में आना चाहिए। और कल जिस तरह से आंखें नम थी हर किसी की, क्योंकि जिस गांव से वो आते हैं वो पंजाब के सबसे बैकवर्ड एरिया हैं। ये लंबी के बादल गांव से आते हैं और इसीलिए इनको बादल के नाम से जो है वो जाना जाता है। और एक ऐसा गाँव है जहाँ पर सीधी बस भी नहीं पहुँचती थी, लेकिन पूरी राजनीति जो है वो पंजाब की एक समय ऐसा आया कि इस गांव के आसपास रहनी शुरू की, क्योंकि ज्यादातर अपने गांव में रहते थे और इसीलिए गांव के सभी लोग जो हैं उनकी आंखें नम थी, वो उनको श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित कर रहे थे। और पता नहीं कि कोई आपको इतना इज्जत इतना मान दे, लेकिन सिंह बादल की छवि थी आज वो काफी
ऑलराइट पंकज जी, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद। सरकार प्रकाश सिंह बादल 95 is no more the 5-time Chief Minister of the state of Punjab. It's time for a short break. On the other side, more of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Moving towards greater control of the state machinery. It's not as if they have the run of the ground. They can do whatever they want. It is not quite like that. Things have improved, but we need to go much further ahead where Naxal activity or their presence is eliminated. So we are a little distant still from there.
Mr. Tia Singh Dev, thank you for speaking with us and making the time here at CNN News 18. But there, like you said, there is a lot more that needs to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is that they need to get it right only once. Our security forces and the establishment has to get it right every single time. And another aspect, it's not at the line of control. It's not in Jammu and Kashmir. It's not at the line of actual control or LAC. It's not in the northeast. It's in these jungles. It's to red terror that we are losing the maximum number of soldiers, our jawans, our personnel. Now, shouldn't there be a stop to this? The big question. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former DG Infantry with us, Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director India Foundation, and PK Mishraji, former ADG BSF with us. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. It tears your heart to talk on the fact that we've lost 11 lives. We've lost people in the line of duty who are doing their jobs. But were they sitting ducks? Were they sitting ducks, PK Mishraji?
Yes, I can well tell you, definitely they were sitting ducks. You were just telling about violation of SOP. Of course, mistakes do happen, but mistakes have happened in Chattisgarh several times. We have lost more than 150 Jawans only in Chattisgarh. It may be Sukma, it may be Chittagopha, it may be Narayanpur, it may be Kanker, or it may be Bijapur. I have gone to this Jaram Ghati and Darba Ghati after both the incidents where Vichi Shukla was injured and that incident, and how they retreated to Malkangiri through Tulsi Dogri. Those areas also I have seen. Somebody who has gone to Bastar, then only they will come to know how difficult it is to control Bastar area.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for even one corps of army to control Bastar area. Definitely, development is taking place. But you cannot, like the state is telling, it's a law and order problem definitely of the state. But Naxalite problem, yes, it is not alone the law and order it is not a law and order problem, and it is not only with the state. Definitely it is a coordinating affair of both state and center and the intelligence group. They will act together, but the leading role should be taken by Chhattisgarh police itself. Like Punjab police, they took the leading role for wiping out the Khalistani commandos and everything, and Punjab became quiet. So the same thing has to be done here. CPMMs are there in addition to them. The IRB battalions have to be trained. The local boys who are taken to DRGs, of course, the DRGs were local boys. But what about that training? We have got a training center in Kanker from Army, and I hope Chattisgarh police, they can be well trained in Kanker, and they have to come to the expectation. See, like Andhra and
cannot drop your guard.
They have done through Greyhound.
One cannot drop their guard at all. The Greyhounds are an example. But every time there is a slip up, there is carelessness, there is loss of lives. And Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, PK Mishra ji, Dhruv Katoji, you are all veterans. You've handled explosives, especially, and you know how much explosive is required to get to blow up a road that is more than 10 feet wide, and to blow a hole in that road which is more than 3.5 to 4 feet deep. So Lieutenant General Kulkarni, for somebody to be able to sow that kind of explosives and plant them on that road, which is a tarred road, if you...
Welcome back. You're watching the breaking news show right here on CNN News 18. We're now taking you to a rather concerning story playing out right here in Delhi, where a 15th century monument has reportedly been razed to the ground in order for a bungalow to be built for a former Delhi Jal Board CEO. The only thing left as we speak is part of the front wall. The Department of Archaeology had originally written to the Delhi Jal Board in Jan 2021. They were seeking possession of the monument and the gateway for conservation. The monument itself was identified as a mahal of the Pathan period. Now, it's important to note that when they then visited the structure in Jan this year, they found that it had been razed to the ground and only the gateway remained. Now, Delhi Jal Board Chairman and Aam Aadmi Party leader Saurabh Bhardwaj has refused to comment on the matter. We will bring you more details about responses that have come in. The Delhi Jal Board CEO, or the former Delhi Jal Board CEO, to who this building and whose family now resides in the building, Udit Rai, has not commented on the matter. He's reiterated that the official ownership was possessed. Now, we'll bring you more details and more responses. This is my colleague Shireen. She brings you this ground report. Take a look.
This is the only thing that is left of that 15th century monument that we are talking about, the Syed dynasty monument that was in fact present here and which has been completely razed down. This was the gateway to that monument, which has also been demolished. So this is the only wall that has been left. Now this is the second entry towards the new official bungalow that has been built over a time period of a year. And right now the family of the then Delhi Jal Board CEO is in fact living here. We try to speak to the guard over here, who refused to comment, also says that no one from inside is in fact willing to speak on the matter. The question over here is, of course, that what is the Delhi Jal Board going to do over this matter, whether they are in fact sent, now that this notice has in fact been sent to the then Delhi Jal Board CEO, and also an explanation has been sought from Delhi Jal Board as well. What is going to be the next course of action as far as Delhi Jal Board is concerned, or will the CEO, now that the new CEO is in place, whether he will move into this place, because at the end of the day, this land belongs to the Delhi Archaeological Department, who have in fact asked that the monument should be preserved, should be conserved, but instead a new bungalow has been built over here.
This shows the expansionist design of the Aam Aadmi Party government is not limited to their chief minister, it's also pervading to the other areas. तो अपने बंगला बने न्यारा की विस्तारवादी नीति, ऐसा लगता है कि सरकार के दूसरे बंगलों पे भी है, मगर मुझे लगता है दिल्ली की जनता दुखी है, व्यथित है, और फिर भी वो बड़े गौर से देख के कह रही है, नजर लागी राजा तोरे बंगले पे.
All right, let's go over to my colleague Shireen. Shireen, it's easy to see how the BJP is using this, because there has obviously been a controversy around reconstruction costs when it comes to the Chief Minister's house in the capital. And I think they're trying to tack this to that. But if we just focus on this story, I'd like to ask you, I know that the person who does reside here, his wife did speak to some media outlets yesterday, and she gave a statement that I don't entirely understand. She said that the monument was not inside the boundary. A monument still exists on the other side of the boundary. Since you are there and you have visited the site itself, could you bring us some context as to what she could have meant?
Well, this particular monument was in fact in parts. The main, the entrance has in fact been demolished completely. Only one side of the wall is visible. Apart from that, the main monument, the Sayyid Dynasty monument, the 15th century monument that the Delhi Archaeological Department has been talking about, that has in fact been completely razed down. Now, a small part of it is still remaining at the back of the house, which is, now this particular house has in fact been completely, the boundary has been built, and beyond the boundary a small part of the monument is still there. But the main building is the bone of contention here, because when we talk about this 15th century monument, in 2021 January itself, the Delhi Archaeological Department that comes under Delhi government has in fact sent a notice saying that they want to take the possession of this monument because they want to go ahead with the preservation, with the conservation of this monument. But what really happened in the timeline from 2021 to 2023 is that the second time the team of the Delhi Archaeological Department visited the place, the main building of the monument was completely razed down and a white bungalow was in fact built there. Now this white bungalow belongs to, officially is the residence of the Delhi Jal Board CEO. Now the Delhi Jal Board CEO at that point was of course Mr. Udit Rai, who has now been transferred to Mizoram, though he is in fact posted in Mizoram, but as far as his family is concerned, they are still, residing in this particular house. So there are two questions that are, of course, being raised by BJP. One, that you have in fact taken the land of the Delhi Archaeological Department, the government of India, and you have built a official bungalow over there. Second, that even after when he has in fact been the then Delhi CEO, the Delhi Jal Board CEO has in fact been transferred, why is it that the family is still residing there? Why was that the bungalow has not been vacant? Right now, there has been no response or comment that has come from Aam Aadmi Party. We have tried to get in touch with the Delhi Jal Board chairperson as well, who is Saurabh Bharadwaj, but there has been complete silence from his office. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, they are also not really commenting. We also tried to reach out to Udit Rai, who is now posted, IS officer who is posted in Mizoram. He is also not responding to the questions that have been raised by CNN News 18. So clearly there's a complete mum, but like you pointed out, yes, the BJP is attacking the Aam Aadmi Party over this, that they have taken possession over a land which belongs to the government, that belongs to Delhi Archaeological Department. Okay. And this matter goes back to 2021. They were clearly told that the land is, a 15th century monument is present here and they want to take possession of that. But even then, the Delhi Jal Board went ahead and built this house. Now, who will take the accountability is the question. Was it really the idea of the then Delhi Jal Board CEO, or was it the entire Delhi Jal Board or the Aam Aadmi Party who is going to really, of course, take the accountability of what they have done at this point?
Shireen, I also want to understand from you, the Department of Archaeology that we're focusing on right now, do they come under the Delhi government's Art, Culture and Language Department? Essentially, are they also run by the Aam Aadmi Party?
Well, that is right. That the Delhi Archaeological Department actually comes under Delhi government itself, and that is why we are seeing that in 2022, a second inspection was done of this particular monument. When the team of Delhi Archaeological Department and a team of Delhi Jal Board, when they inspected the place, that is when they observed that only part of it is remaining. The other part, which is out of the boundary, is still there, but the main monument has been completely razed down. So it does come under Delhi government, and that is why it is all the more serious, concerning, because here the Aam Aadmi Party cannot really blame the central government, because when we talk about ASI, which is the Archaeological Survey of India, they comes under central government. But this notice has come from the Delhi Archaeological Department that is run by Delhi government itself. So clearly there has been lapses that has happened. Clearly there is a lot of answering that needs to be done by the Aam Aadmi Party and also the Delhi Jal Board Minister Saurabh Bharadwaj.
Shireen, just stay with us. I want to play out your ground report for our audiences. Take a look and then we'll connect once again with Shireen.
This is is the only thing that is left of that 15th century monument that we are talking about, the Sayyid dynasty monument that was in fact present here and which has been completely razed down. This was the gateway to that monument, which has also been demolished. So this is the only wall that has been left. Now this is the second entry towards the new official bungalow that has been built over a time period of an year, and right now the family of the then Delhi Jal Board CEO is in fact living here. We try to speak to the guard over here, who refused to comment, also says that no one from inside is in fact willing to speak on the matter. The question over here is, of course, that what is the Delhi Jal Board going to do over this matter, whether they are in fact sent, now that this notice has in fact been sent to the then Delhi Jal Board CEO, and also an explanation has been sought from Delhi Jal Board as well. What is going to be the next course of action as far as Delhi Jal Board is concerned, or will the CEO, now that the new CEO is in place, whether he will move into this place, because at the end of the day, this land belongs to the Delhi Archaeological Department, who have in fact asked that the monument should be preserved, should be conserved, but instead a new bungalow has been built over here.
Okay, that story was based right here in Delhi, and we're now taking you down to Bihar, where gangster and former MP Anand Mohan, who was given a life-term punishment for killing an IAS officer, G. Krishnai, has been released from the Saharsa jail today after 15 years to much controversy. Now, as per sources, Anand Mohan is likely to hold a mega roadshow in his hometown. Meanwhile, you have another retired IPS officer. He'll be filing a petition against the Bihar government's decision to amend its state prison rules. Remember, it's that amendment of state prison rules that has allowed for Anand Mohan to be released in the first place. Now, reacting to Anand Mohan's release, G. Krishnai's family has condemned the move. They've also said that the Nitish Kumar government that is in power in Bihar is setting the wrong precedent. The family is also likely to file an appeal against this decision. Remember, a massive controversy erupted after the state government tweaked the Bihar prison rules, which remit prisoners punishments from crimes like murder of government servants on duty. Now, we're going to bring you more context on this entire story in just a second. My colleague Saurabh Rathore is with us live right now to bring us more context on this story. Saurabh, Nitish Kumar is someone who's built his legacy on being known as Sushasan Babu, someone who fought against criminals and ensured good governance in Bihar. Can you walk us through Anand Mohan's record, what it is that he was put into prison for in the first place, then tell us more about reactions to his release?
See, according to the records, if you talk about Anand Mohan, at the age of 17, he was jailed while participating in JP movement in 1974. And then after 2 years of imprisonment, he came out, and then his politics started, in which he supported the upper class caste people at that point of time in Bihar, because Bihar has always been in focus for caste politics. So he chose, because he belongs to Rajput community, so he chose to support the upper caste, and at that time OBC reservation issue was at its peak. So then he emerged as a leader of upper caste in this whole North Bihar region. And in 1994, when Chotan Shukla, one of his very close aide, was shot dead, then his dead body was kept in Muzaffarpur in 1994, and at that point of time it is said that Anand Mohan, it was alleged that Anand Mohan gave the orders to kill the Dalit IS officer G. Krishnaiah. He was convicted for this murder, and he was the first politician to be convicted for murder charges, and was given a death sentence at that time by lower court of Bihar. And in 2007 he was convicted. In 2008 in High Court of Patna, his death sentence was commuted, and it was given a life imprisonment. So from 2007 to 2023 he has been in jail. But the issue here is that the amendment that took place on April 10 by Nitish government in the jail manual of Bihar, which earlier it said that those criminals who murders a government officer will be kept forever for his whole life term, and for that the rule was changed, and Anand Mohan is released today. Now the controversy here is at the timing of his release, because it is said that just to lure Rajput voters, he has the Nitish government has changed the rules.
Right. Saurabh, thank you for bringing us that context. Stay with us. Both the ruling JDU and the RJD seem keen to have him join their Mahagathbandhan. Now my colleague Poonam is going to be taking over. We're going over to her.
Thank you, Toya, for that. And joining us on this broadcast, the daughter of former Gopalganj DM G. Krishnaya. Remember, Anand Mohan was convicted for the murder of her father. Padma, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. You know, the man who was convicted of murdering your father walked out of jail at midnight in the dark of the night. But like a hero, there were supporters there waiting outside. He's also planning to have a roadshow. How do you look at this?
Well, this is very disheartening to our entire family and also to the nation that, you know, he had come out today in the morning and he is walking freely. And we've also got news that, you know, he's going to attend some meetings for, you know, to continue his political career. This is very disheartening, definitely not expected out of the Bihar government. And we are hoping that whatever decision has been taken should be taken back. And Anand Mohan should be sent back to jail again.
He should be sent back is what you say, Padma, but are you going to take this up legally to ensure that he is behind bars? Are you going to knock on the doors of the Supreme Court or the High Court perhaps?
Yes, definitely. We today in the morning, my mother has already signed on the papers and we are appealing to the Supreme Court. And our request is that the law should be with us and not with criminals. And we're definitely going to also try and approach Prime Minister Modi ji. So I'm hoping that, you know, all of this that is going on, we are speaking so much, the entire nation knows the kind of service that my dad had done. So this should be taken back. And it's just not us, but the entire state of Bihar is also hoping for this. But let's see. We're just hoping that everything changes now.
Yes. Yes, you are hoping for that reversal, and there are many like you in the country that are hoping for that as well. The IAS Association has also come on record in your support. There are many people in the country who've done so. But what is it that you expect? Do you expect the judiciary to, you know, take up your cause? Or do you expect that this decision will be reversed?
Well, I'm not 100% confident about this, that this will be taken into consideration, whatever we are speaking and whatever the nation is fighting about. I'm not 100% confident because this is India and people here are still kind of like, you know, only supporting politicians who are bad and who are criminals. So, but I'm just hoping, I am just hoping that it should be taken back. I mean, whatever decision the, you know, the prison manual has been changed is what we got to know. So whatever this is, I mean, it's just not Anand Mohan who is out right now. There are 26 or 27 other more criminals who are walking free on the roads and they can do anything. So whatever rule has come out that Anand Mohan, you know, people are saying that Anand Mohan has been free now, he's suffered like 14 years. Compared to our suffering, I think what he has suffered is like 0%.
Absolutely. And Padma, like you said, that it's not just him. There are 26 others who are also out and, you know, they could do anything now that they're walking free. And coming back to Anand Mohan Singh, now he's a powerful man. He was a gangster turned politician. He's been a Lok Sabha member of parliament on 2 occasions. Do you think that this decision to release him, the kind of welcome that he's got, is only going to embolden him and perhaps others to commit crimes with impunity?
Absolutely, definitely. And this is just encouraging other criminals as well. You know, before there used to be Naxalites, but now it's just the mafia and the gangsters, this thing that's going on around. And it is very And, Anand Mohan, I mean, I've seen videos of him that he's carrying guns and roaming around. I'm surprised that Bihar is still so backward, that people there are not understanding the kind of difference, and they are voting for people like criminals and all of it. This is so disheartening. I'm hoping that Bihar should change. My voice should reach out to Bihar, and I'm sure that people there should be able to understand the kind of struggle my father had gone through. He had so many policies and thoughtful things that he wanted to do for the state of Bihar. He's not there today, but I mean, all of this should be thought of before letting that person out.
Absolutely. All of these things should have taken into account, which is why I want to ask you that if you could make a personal appeal to Nitish Kumar, what would that be? You were just 4 or 5 years old when you lost your father. For someone who's lost a parent as young as that, would you like to make a personal appeal to Nitish Kumar? And if yes, what would you want to say to him?
I personally do not want to appeal to Nitish Kumar ji, because I don't think he's that, he's a good person. He's involved, he's kind of like supported Anand Mohan so much to get him out. My direct appeal will be to the Supreme Court and the Prime Minister, but not Nitish Kumar. I don't believe in him.
You're saying you're going to approach the Supreme Court. You've said your mother's already signed on the papers. But I just want to ask you, do you think the people of this country are going to stand with you through that entire legal battle and back your cause?
Yes, I believe in the people of India. I mean, it could be certain here, certain positive things and negative things, pros and cons, but I'm hoping that the nation understands the struggle, not just, there are a lot of other people also who have been going through the same situation. So everything should be taken into consideration, and whatever that is going on right now, we will definitely ensure that we approach to the Supreme Court legally, and if I and my mother are called out to the Supreme Court to speak, we will definitely speak and voice out. And we're just hoping that justice is in favor of us and not in favor of the criminals.
One last question before I let you go, Padma. Do you think that this decision of the Bihar government is going to discourage other young aspirants from entering the services, from wanting to be IAS officers? Because especially women, the kind of stories that we hear and from certain parts of the country, from states like Bihar, do you think this decision to release a murder convict, a man who would murder an IAS officer, is going to discourage these young aspirants?
Absolutely, definitely. There should be a law in place now that everything is, the entire nation knows about what happened to my father. And right now, at this point of time, I think this is the right time that PM Modi ji should think of this, that why is the nation thinking of this so much? Why is the nation feeling that people here today are so unsafe? So this gangster and mafia thing should be erased, and I am... that's all I can say about it. What more can I say? My appeal is directly to PM Modi ji, and I'm just hoping in Indian law, in the Indian judiciary system, that something really comes in place.
We do hope that it does. But Padma, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. It must have been a difficult time for you, but thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Now, that is the big story that we'll be tracking here all through the day. My colleague Toya joins you to take this forward.
Poonam, thank you. Our last story for the show today, before we move on, is a particularly important one. We want to keep you up to track with what's taking place as we speak in Sudan. Our next story, as we promised, takes you down to Sudan, the third largest country in Africa, where military and paramilitary forces continue to fight. And their fighting over the last few days has led to a state of near collapse in the nation. Now, the country has about 3,000 Indians present in it. The first batch of 360 Indians from the crisis-hit country actually arrived back in New Delhi last evening. This is under Operation Kaveri. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that India welcomes back its own, but as we said, there are still a large number of Indians that remain stranded there. We say stranded because the airspace above Sudan has been shut down as the military and the paramilitary continue to fight. Now, 2 more flights carrying Indians are expected to land in Delhi today. India is using 2 military transport aircrafts and the warship INS Sumedha in these evacuation efforts. The US and China and a number of other diplomatic missions have been evacuating their citizens also over the last few days as the situation in Sudan continues to get more serious. The president is, as we speak, in a hospital under police custody. Now, we're going to continue to focus on the India story and on Operation Kaveri. India is taking evacuees to the Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah as we speak. It's then transporting them back home. Here's a look very quickly at a ground report my colleague Siddhant brought. He was able to speak to people who were coming back from Sudan. Take a look.
Under the Operation Kaveri, which has been started by Indian government to evacuate the stranded Indians in Sudan, the first commercial flight carrying Indians stranded in Sudan has arrived in New Delhi. The flight had 360 passengers on board. Many passengers are still in Jeddah. For them, second flight is being arranged by Indian government. And in fact, the second round of evacuation is currently underway from Port Sudan. Now, situation on ground is complicated, and despite ceasefire being announced by both warring groups, despite truce being announced by warring groups, there is less implementation of the same on ground. And this is perhaps the reason that situation still remains complicated. What the people, those who have been rescued, are telling us is that Khartoum, in and around Khartoum, the 100 kilometers of Khartoum, the fight is going on, though that particular area is worst affected. And in fact, post that, the situation is comparatively peaceful. All those who have been evacuated were in touch with the Indian embassy through a WhatsApp group, and they did take a road route from Khartoum to Port Sudan, and from Port Sudan they have been evacuated in 3 batches. Some embarked on INS Sumedha. The other 2 batches were sent to Jeddah via C-130J Indian Air Force transport aircraft. Now, estimate figure is 500, those who have been evacuated. The second round of evacuation is still going on. We have been told that a second round of truce has been brokered, and India is now eyeing on second round of evacuation to Port Sudan.
In terms of evacuating, I would say the job which is done by Indian government, we are hands off to it. And the support Indian Air Force or Indian Navy which has provided, that is also excellent. Moreover, not over the support, even when you board the ship or you board the aircraft, the way how they act with you, it's like you are coming home.
हाँ, खाना मिलता था. खाना कंपनी में कोई दिक्कत नहीं था. दिक्कत लोकल के था कि सामने आके गोली कनपट्टी पे रखते थे. पैसे दो, मोबाइल दो, मोबाइल लिए, पैसे ले लिए सर.
सुरक्षित थे? हम लोग अपने मकान में छुपे थे, खाना पीना नहीं खाते थे.
नहीं मिल रहा था.
कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं यहाँ भारत में? उत्तर प्रदेश, यूपी.
ये गवर्नमेंट हर तरह से अपने बेस्ट पॉसिबल जो हो सकता है वो कर रही है, बट अभी का जो मेन चैलेंज है खार्तूम से पोर्ट सुडान आना अभी भी चैलेंज है. वहाँ की हालत इसमें बहुत ही दयनीय है. वहाँ 12 साल के बच्चे AK-47 उठा चुके हैं और वहाँ पर पॉलिटिक्स की लड़ाई है. बस वहाँ क्या है कि
आपके साथ क्या हुआ?
हमारे साथ वो लोग आए हैं और हमारी पूरी कंपनी को लूट लिए. हमारे जितने इंडियन भाई थे उनको सब लूट लिए. किसी के पास एक पैसे नहीं छोड़े. सारा
मारपीट भी किया आप लोगों के साथ?
नहीं, वो बोले कि हम इंडियन को, चाइना, अमेरिका 3 को नहीं मारेंगे, बाकी कोई होगा हम उसको मार देंगे।
सर 1000 किलोमीटर के सफर में डर बना था, लेकिन सर वहाँ की जो मिलिट्री है उन्होंने भी काफी सपोर्ट किया, जो पारामिलिट्री है रास्ते में उन्होंने भी काफी सपोर्ट किया। सिर्फ आपको ये बोलना था कि हम इंडियन हैं, आई मीन
इंडियन की मदद कर रहे थे।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर, रेस्पेक्ट भी करते हैं इंडियन की।
मतलब कहीं जो सरकार की तरफ से दबाव था कि इंडियंस को कुछ नहीं।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर, और हमें तो मोदी जी की सरकार पे ऐसे ही बहुत ज्यादा फक्र था।
अच्छा,
तो हम लोग को बाहर नहीं जा सकते।
पैसे दो, मोबाइल दो।
हम लोग अपने मकान में छुपे थे,
अभी भी चाबी नहीं।
बहुत थैंक यू।
Job which is done by Indian government, we are hands off to it.
वो बोले कि हम इंडियन को नहीं मारेंगे।
कोर्ट में जब जाते हैं वहाँ मौखिक नहीं चलता।
देखिए, पैसे के लेन देन में अगर इतना पैसा लेन देन हुआ है और इस पर कोई भी कागजी कार्रवाई नहीं हुई है, तो फिर ये तो इसको आप कैसे सिद्ध कीजिएगा कि किया गया है? अब किसी के कहने पर कि किसी ने दगा किया, कोर्ट तो ये देखेगा कि साक्ष्य क्या है, और अगर ये जमीन और इस पर कब्जा अवैध है तो ये अवैध है। किसी ने अगर पैसा लिया है तो वो उसकी कहीं ना कहीं रिसीविंग तो लेगा ही। बिना रिसीविंग के कोई कभी किसी को पैसा लेता है क्या? रिसीविंग का कोई तो साक्ष्य होगा। अगर वो साक्ष्य सामने लाकर नहीं दिया तो फिर ये जगह, तो फिर जो कागज दिखा पाएगा, जो कोर्ट में सिद्ध कर पाएगा कि वो लीगल ओनर है, टाइटल उसका है, जमीन तो उसके पास जाएगी। फिलहाल यहाँ पर अब इसको पूरी तरह से तोड़ा जा रहा है, इस एरिया को, इस सड़क को, जिस पर सीमेंट लगाकर इसको पक्का करने की कोशिश की गई। क्या ये भी किसी के परमिशन के साथ, लोकल म्युनिसिपैलिटी के परमिशन के साथ इसको किया गया, या अपने ही मन से इसको कराया गया, ये भी प्रश्न है। अब वहां पर जो स्थानीय है वो कहते हैं
Well, we're talking about fresh bulldozer action in Prayagraj, and this, we believe, is an action taken by the government in the state when it is about cracking down on mafia that is still very much operational in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Remember, we'd seen the killing of Atiq and Ashraf Ahmed just a few weeks ago, and we'd seen how the law and order situation had come under a huge question mark under the Yogi Adityanath regime with the killing of Umesh Pal in Prayagraj in broad daylight. After the killing of Umesh Pal, we have been seeing these kind of bulldozer actions on the properties of Atiq Ahmed and Ashraf Ahmed.
जो है वो बुलडोजर कर रहा है। अब यहाँ पर यही अहम सवाल, जो स्थानीय लोग हैं उनका कहना है कि हमने अपनी सेफ्टी के लिए ये गेट को यहाँ पर लगाया था, पर फिर सवाल वही कि अगर लिखित तौर पर कोई लिखा पढ़ी नहीं हुई है तो किसकी इजाजत से ये गेट यहाँ पर लगा? क्या यहाँ का जो लोकल प्रशासन है, जो म्युनिसिपैलिटी है, क्या वो इसमें इन्वॉल्व थी? और यहाँ पर ये भी
आपको आसपास कोई
10 साल बाद क्यों जाग रहे हैं कि 10 साल पहले की ये पूरी
आपको आसपास कोई स्ट्रीट लाइट दिख रहा है दोनों तरफ, जैसा आप कह रही है रिहायशी?
So my News 18 correspondent is trying to bring us all the action as to exactly what is happening in Prayagraj. We are seeing a fresh bulldozer action at play. Remember, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, had mentioned in the floor of the House in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly how there is going to be an iron fist dealing against the mafia in Uttar Pradesh, and this seems to be an action pertaining to that, where yet another property which is associated with one of the crime syndicate members is being brought down in Prayagraj. For more details, we will head to my colleagues on the ground who are tracking minute-by-minute update as to what exactly is happening over there. But you can see the JCV, the bulldozer,
रोड के किनारे लगे हुए हैं, क्योंकि रोड से बिल्कुल काट के ये पूरे रास्ते को बनाया गया है। स्ट्रीट लाइट किसी तरीके की कोई नहीं है, पीछे तक कोई नहीं है, और ये बेसिकली एक ये पूरा लंबा रास्ता जो है, जो आसपास के यहाँ पर घर हैं, जो कैमरा पर्सन विमल से कहूँगी जरा तस्वीरों में दिखाएं, जो आसपास के ये पूरे प्लॉट कटे हुए, इनके लिए इसको रास्ता बनाया गया, और ये मुख्यतः उनके ही प्लॉट्स हैं जिनमें घर बनाकर भेजा गया है। इसीलिए स्थानीय लोगों का गुस्सा ये है कि ये सड़क तो हमें बनी बनाई 10 साल से मिली है, तो आज इस पर क्यों रोष हो रहा है? लेकिन बात नहीं है कि जिस तरीके से रिजवान अहमद के जो वकील।
धन्यवाद प्रियंका। अखाड़ा में फिलहाल बस इतना ही।
My colleague Pranshu is now joining us on the broadcast to actually offer more perspective as exactly what is happening in Prayagraj. Pranchu, we are seeing a fresh bulldozer action in Prayagraj. Whose property are we looking at?
Well, see, at the first place, this entire matter is absolutely not related to the government's own decision. Neither it is anywhere related to Atiq Ahmed's case. Neither this property belongs to Atiq Ahmed, nor, it has been illegally amassed by the mafia, which is associated to Atiq Ahmed. There is this petitioner, there is a Muslim petitioner who has earlier gone on to the High Court saying that some local people there, local people there have occupied a stretch of property which doesn't belong to them, and after that, High Court has given these orders. So, in fact, this is, the matter which is not, directly be related to what we often describe as the Yogi government's bulldozer policy. But here it's a case which was before the High Court, and High Court has asked the government to get it vacated within 48 hours, and that's the reason why the bulldozers have been brought out by the Prayagraj administration. So yes, this is of course happening in Prayagraj. People may be thinking about, this be an extension of some sort of action against probably Atiq Ahmed or his gang. But this case has nothing to do with it. This is purely on the basis of the orders which were given by the Allahabad High Court on a petition filed by a Muslim person there who has said that a land belonging to him and the public property has been encroached by local goons. And the local goons also belong to from the very same religious community. And on the basis of this petition, High Court has given an order, and now the administration is complying with those High Court orders.
All right, Pranchu, and which area in Prayagraj are we looking at?
बुलडोजर से इसको बुलडोज किया जा रहा है और इसके पीछे एक बड़ा गेट बना हुआ है जिसको भी बुलडोज आज किया जाएगा। हैवी पुलिस डिप्लॉयमेंट के बीच लॉयर्स यहाँ पर जो ऑपोजिट पार्टी के हैं वो भी यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं और यहाँ इस बुलडोजर की जो कार्रवाई है ये की जा रही है। एसडीएम ने इस कार्रवाई के लिए जो ये बात है उनको ये जिम्मेदारी इसकी दी गई थी और यहाँ पर ये जो पूरा रास्ता है ये मैं आपको दिखाऊं कि जहाँ पर अभी हम खड़े हैं ये एक खाली प्लॉट है। ये एक पूरा रास्ता लंबा पीछे की तरफ जाता है जहाँ पर बाकी के जो प्लॉट्स हैं वो बने हुए हैं। ये तस्वीरें आपको दिखा रहे हैं कि यहाँ से जब आप पीछे की तरफ जाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे कि यहाँ से पीछे की तरफ पूरे प्लॉट जो हैं वो बने हुए हैं और यहाँ वहाँ पर ये देखें यहाँ पर जो तमाम महिलाएं हैं जिनके घर यहाँ पर हैं उनमें भी बहुत नाराजगी है। किस बात की नाराजगी है?
किसी बात की नहीं है मैम, देख रहे हो जो सामने हो रहा है।
Remember, this was a fresh bulldozer action in Prayagraj, but like my colleague Pranchu was mentioning and clarifying, this has got nothing to do with the properties of mafias, especially Atiq and Ashraf Ahmed. This is a High Court directed removal of illegal encroachment and possession within 48 hours, and that's why bulldozers have been pressed into service. We're shifting our focus now and going on to news that's coming in from Bihar, where gangster and former MP Anand Mohan, who was given a lifetime punishment for killing an IAS officer G. Krishnaiah, has been now released from the Saharsa jail today after 15 years. And this is, remember, as part of the remission that's now been granted by changing the entire jail norms in and amending them in Bihar. As per sources, we've been told that Anand Mohan is likely to hold a mega roadshow in his hometown in Panchgaya. And we also know that the retired IPS Amitabh Das will now be filing a petition against Bihar government's decision to amend the very state prison rules, which would now challenge the release of Anand Mohan. So already there is a counter action that is in play. We are seeing, like we are showing you, the family of Mr. Krishnaiah on the right side of your screen. They're already appealing to the Nitish Kumar administration that such a decision needs to be taken back. Now, reacting to Anand Mohan's release, G. Krishnaiah's family condemned this move and said that the Nitish government is setting a wrong precedence. The family is also likely to file a legal appeal against the decision. Now, remember, massive controversy had also erupted after the state government went on to tweak the Bihar prison rules, which remitted prisoners punishments for crime like murder of a government service on duty and reduced it to just 14 years of sentence. The BJP has accused the Nitish government of appeasement politics and even termed this move as return of Jungle Raj in the state of Bihar. Now, after the release of Anand Mohan, G. Krishnaiah's wife has spoken exclusively to CNN News 18 Swastika Das and condemned Anand Mohan's release. Listen into that conversation.
ग्रेट ट्रेविस्टी ऑफ जस्टिस।
हाँ, ये तो है ही।
यूँ बोले तो एक बार वही लोग ला बना दिया, एक ही फिर दूसरा बार वही लोग तोड़ रहा है, ऐसा अच्छा नहीं है। दूसरा लोगों के लिए भी थ्रेट है। दूसरा ऑफिसर जो सिंसियरली काम कर रहा है, कमिटेडली काम कर रहा है, कुछ चेंज लाने, सोसाइटी में चेंज लाने के लिए वो लोग काम कर रहा है। वो लोगों के लिए तो ये भी थोड़ा सा वो लोग डिमोरलाइज करेगा ये डिसीजन।
आगे के क्या डिमांड्स हैं मैम आपके, अगर कुछ है तो?
पहले उसको रिलीज़ नहीं करना है, रिलीज़ कर दिया ठीक है, मगर उसको पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं लेना है, उसको एमएलए का सीट नहीं देना है, उसको मिनिस्ट्री नहीं देना है। चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑफ बिहार, प्लीज़ डोंट टेक सच काइंड ऑफ एक्शंस सर, प्लीज़ डोंट रिलीज हिम बोल के हम लोग रिक्वेस्ट किया है।
Do you think that an entire system has let you down?
Yeah.
Including the judiciary?
Yeah, including the judiciary. I can't say that, but it is due to the pressure of the political leaders.
Let me bring in my colleague Swastika, who has just taken that interview with G. Krishnaiya's family members. Swastika, we've heard the wife of Mr. Krishnaiya. Now, she clearly is very, very upset with this decision to amend the prison norms in Bihar, which has led to the immediate release of Anand Mohan, who is responsible for killing her husband. Now, she mentions that she is going to be filing a counter-appeal. What else is it that the family is choosing on doing, considering there is already a plea that's been filed by a retired IS officer against the release of Mr. Anand Mohan?
Well, the anger is palpable because this is a great travesty of justice if you ask any person here, and especially for the family. In fact, they fought so hard for justice, and now to see somebody, the convicted MP, being let free and walking, and he's going to also hold a rally, this is something that has completely gone against the family's demands, and that is why G. Krishnaiya's wife, his daughter, spoke to them. They told me that they're going to challenge this legally, and B, they've also written and have in fact appealed to the Prime Minister, to the President of this country, to ensure that this kind of travesty does not happen, because this is going to set a terrible precedent as far as the Indian ecosystem is concerned. In fact, there are more than 70 IAS officers who have been rallying behind the family. They themselves have also written to the concerned authorities condemning this. And what essentially the family has been demanding is that there should be competent voice, which is why they've also reached out to the Telangana government through media to wholeheartedly condemn this and stand by them at this hour of big concern and what is clearly a broad day butcher of justice, as one would put it.
Absolutely. And Swastika, since you mentioned the Telangana government, and we have seen the hobnobbing of Mr. KCR along with Nitish Kumar, they share a great rapport. There was much talk about a third front in the conversation amidst opposition unity that Nitish Kumar and also Mr. KCR was trying to actually rake up. Is there going to be any sort of a conversation that is possibly going to happen by the Telangana Chief Minister with Mr. Nitish Kumar?
Well, at this juncture, there is no update on that front. But when I put that question across to the family here, because they have been living in Hyderabad, they say that through the media, they've reached out to the Telangana government as well. And in goodwill, they expect the state government, as well as not just Telangana, but all the state governments across the country to condemn this. Because A, he's not just a murderer, according to the family, he's also somebody who is very much interested in entering the field of politics. He's going to contest as an MLA or MLC or MP, only future knows. But what they are telling is not only has the entire bureaucratic fraternity been disrespected with this decision by the Nitish Kumar government, but also the fact that this is going to set out a terrible example that those who have been convicted for the murders, and we're talking about an IAS officer's murder here, they cannot just get into the field of politics and again manhandle and misuse the system which is already at stake.
Right. Swastika, thank you so much for joining us with all the latest there. Let me also bring in my colleague Saurav Rathore, who's joining us on the broadcast. Saurav, you have been following this story. You interviewed Mr. Anand Mohan after he was out on parole for his son's wedding. He was quite upbeat about this entire decision, but some things are not really adding up. What explains the surprise dawn release of Anand Mohan?
See, when we posed the question that he had both the images of a Masiha and a criminal, he was upset by my question and he requested me not to repeat that word because according to him, nobody has ever called him a criminal. And because of that, we talked to several people, and in fact, we are here on ground zero in Saharsa, where he was released early in the morning, and now we are learning that he has left for his village very secretly. He didn't inform anyone. All the media houses are still present at the guest house behind me, you can see, and very secretly he has left for Pachgachia, his native village, and now you can see the whole line of vehicles, they all are moving towards his village because the media had asked several questions, and we particularly had asked him very strong questions because of his history. And after that, Anand Mohan had stopped speaking to the media, and it is that reason that he has left very secretly. He has not appeared as per the plans that were. He first came out of the jail early in the morning without telling anyone. Then he has left. He was scheduled to come here and then move to, with a road show. He was to move to his village. But now we are learning that an hour ago he had left without informing anyone, and now he has informed his supporters to come to the village. So we will keep tracking the movement of Anand Mohan, although all the information that we are getting, it's not, it was the part of the schedule, but what we are learning right now is that Anand Mohan has left for his village, and we will track this story.
Thank you so much for that, Saurav. We are right now getting some important breaking news. Now, this one is a CNN News 18 mega exclusive news break that we are putting out for our viewers, and this concerns the Poonch attackers and also the Dangri attackers. We are learning that both these attackers are in fact the same group, and CNN News 18 has also exclusively learnt that how Gujjar from Rajouri Poonch area has already been arrested by the police. And as per top intelligence sources who have mentioned this to CNN News 18, one more person has also been arrested who has worked as an associate of this person, Gujjar. My colleague Anand Mohan is joining us with all the latest when it comes to this exclusive news break. Yes, Anand.
Well, thanks for that, and good afternoon to our viewers. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta confirming the doubts that remained, because in this Poonch Rajouri area in January, if you could jog your memory, viewers, there was an attack in which 7 people were killed. It was an attack in a village where residents were killed. There were huge amount of protests in the area also at that time. Locals were very, very upset that this kind of an attack had happened, and there had been massive search and combing operations that had been launched, but the attackers, even after about 48 hours, there was information that they had actually tried to barge into one of the locals' areas not so far away, and they tried to get food and water, and then they tried to escape from that area. Now we are given to understand that the Gujjar who was attacked, who was arrested yesterday by the agencies and by the SID that is actually hot on the trails of these terrorists, has now confessed that there is the same lot, and there is actually one more local who has been arrested who actually provided them aid and provided them support. These attackers have stayed at this Gujjar's place for 3 months. Since January, they have stayed in for 3 months, and then they have orchestrated this entire attack in Bhatadhoria, which is not so far away. It is in that same Poonch Rajouri sector, and in that area where they targeted this van, which had our Jawans, 5 army Jawans who were martyred. They were carrying administrative work. They were doing. They're actually carrying supplies, food supplies for an iftar party, and it's the same group of attackers. There were bullet wounds that were seen. They were carrying steel bullets, which are armor-piercing bullets. These are Chinese-made ammunition. But now it is confirmation. This is the same lot of attackers, the same 3 of them who were spotted in Dangri, where they killed 7 people.
Anand, when this news really came out, there was this one particular villager who had ended up helping these terrorists, giving them food and shelter. This also is leading up to a lot of conjecture and theories on how such a thing is going to further alienate the Bakarwal community in the area. Anything else that you're learning vis-a-vis that as well?
Well, these are Gujars, yes, but this is not a migrant group. It just looks like they are locals, they reside there. And have they done it under pressure or have they done it on their own will? Are they active OGWs? This is all subject to confirmation. Yesterday, one local was arrested, that is this Gujar. Today, another person has been arrested. So there are two people who've been arrested, and both of them have now confirmed that these are foreign terrorists. That these two attackers, these three terrorists, they are from Pakistan who have infiltrated before the winter set in, and they have spent time in this area itself. They've been operating in the jungles itself. They lived there with this person for 3 months. He gave them shelter. How, why, those details are still expected. But they are using the dense jungles there, which is very difficult to patrol. The other aspect is that these jungles themselves have a lot of caves. So it is very easy for people to hide there, take shelter, and then keep changing locations.
Absolutely.
In a lot of these caves, the cops and the sleuths, the investigators, when they've gone, these search parties have gone, they've actually stumbled upon huge caches of arms and ammunition which have been stocked and kept there. So those details have also come in the past. But right now, the confirmation, big confirmation, that the Dangri attackers and the Rajouri attackers are the same.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Anand. SP Ware, who's a former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, is also with us. Mr. Ware, thank you so much for joining us first. This is a huge piece of information that we are getting, that the attackers at Poonch are as same as the people who had attacked the Dangri village just a month, in the month of January. This is a huge piece of intel that we are garnering. Your first words on this information, sir.
I was listening to Anand's talk, and I think it's a huge information. And these two Gujars who have been apprehended need to be interrogated thoroughly. We must know. See, as Anand was saying, it's a deep jungle. You have caves there. They could be hiding for months together. But my point is, how are they getting food items? They can't bring so much of a ration or so much of food item that they can survive for months and years. It is not possible. Somebody is providing them eatable. After all, they have to survive. They might have stockpiled some amount of food items there in the caves wherever they are hiding. But still, I find it very difficult to digest that for months together somebody can be completely isolated from the population around. So I think the police and security forces need to work out, first interrogate these two gentlemen very thoroughly, find out their hulia, their which area, roughly which area they could be hiding, locate that, calm that area, and also their identification, whatever, how they look like, and make those photographs possible to all surrounding villages. So even if they are changing their shakal and all, that also needs to be. We must involve the local people all around and get them. Our operation should be Operation Binash should be launched, and they should be finished off before they can do any more harm. That's my take, and I think everyone should work towards that end.
Okay, and the Lashkar background of the terrorists, does this come in as a surprise, sir, or it's pretty understandable that we are again learning that these people are also associated with the Lashkar?
They are. I have no issues. I see all these terrorists. They are really one and the same. They only keep changing the names. That otherwise they're all rascals, and they need to be eliminated. That is the only way. And I think Lashkar or Jash, whoever he or she may be, needs to be eliminated. That is only number one priority should be with the army and the police and security forces.
And Mr. Vaid, we also learned that these people, attackers, are young men who have joined the terrorist ranks, and they are obviously functioning through certain social media groups where they are able to interact. They also put out information in the form of poetry and also announce attacks like what had happened in Poonch.
So see, if that is happening, that they are using social media, then something is lacking in our investigating part. I think we have people who monitor social media groups, and we should have been able to identify where are they operating from, who are they, maybe they're using internet, which is difficult to intercept, but yes, we have technology, and I think that should be, and TRO should be involved in that, and we should be able to track down from which phone and from which direction and which rough location are they operating, and we should be able to in fact, don't allow them any publicity.
And one final question that I would want you to answer, SP Vaid, sir, that this one arrest which has been made was an overground worker. The merging and blurring of lines between the overground workers and the terrorists and the open access, is it not really putting in a lot of impact on the combing operations when it comes to these terrorists, especially in the Poonch area in Jammu and Kashmir, because this action once again is underlining the very fact that what had happened in Dangri has been repeated in Poonch.
Yes, that's true. It has been repeated in Poonch, and these three young men who probably came from Pakistan after crossing the LOC, they most of the successful operations have been, after all, this beginning is made by these overground workers in interrogation only, and then leads come. Then you join many points, and ultimately you are able to reach rough location where these people could be. If these two gentlemen are thoroughly interrogated, they would be able to give some leads to the security forces, which ultimately can help us in tracking them down. And I think we should launch Operation Binash to finish them out.
Thank you so much, SP Vaid, for joining us on the broadcast. So Poonch and Dangri attackers are the same. That's the big, mega exclusive news break that we are putting out for our viewers on CNN News 18. And with that, we are slipping into a very short break. Coming back with lots more.
CPMMs are there. In addition to them, the IRB battalions have to be trained. The local boys who are taken to DRGs, of course, the DRGs were local boys. But what about the training? We have got a training center in Kanker from Army, and I hope Chattisgarh police, they can be well trained in Kanker, and they have to come to the expectation like Andhra and
cannot drop your
Telangana.
guard.
They have done through Greyhound.
One cannot drop their guard at all. The Greyhounds are an example. They're but every time there is a slip up, there is carelessness, there is loss of lives. And Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, PK Mishra ji, Dhruv Katoji, you are all veterans. You've handled explosives, especially, and you know how much explosive is required to get to blow up a road that is more than 10 feet wide, and to blow a hole in that road which is more than 3.5 to 4 feet deep. So Lieutenant General Kulkarni, for somebody to be able to sow that kind of explosives and plant them on that road, which is a tarred road. If you see the road, it's a tarred road on either side. But look at that crater. That's a huge, that's a lot of explosive that has been planted there.
Yeah.
5 feet deep crater is what we are given to understand. General Kulkarni.
You know, what has happened is extremely sad. Something which is avoidable, because we have to have actionable end. Much that everything has been done at all levels. It's very easy to blame so and so should have done this, so and so. What happens is the people on the ground, the boys who are there, maybe the DRG, which are the local tribals as it is brought out, who have been trained or not trained or partially trained into this kind of thing. A kind of complacency sets in. And even last time, if I recollect it, in 2010 or something, when in April, when we lost about 75, when they returned back from operations, this is what happened. We have, until and unless we have good intelligence coming in, we have to have our eyes and ears everywhere. Human end, technical end, kind of mobile tasks that are required to be there. The terrain is extremely, totally jungle. It's not easy. I understand it's not easy. That's the reason one has been there. But notwithstanding that, you find a lot has been done. At a point of time, there were 140 districts affected. They came down to 76. And now that we are just about 46 districts. And
welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha.
Now, a day after the deadly Naxal attack in Chattisgarh's Dantewada, a bunch of wire has been found at the crime scene. And sources suggest that this bunch of wire is suspected to have been used to trigger the IAT. Meanwhile, after assessment of the crime scene, intel sources have told CNN News 18 that a tunnel had been dug below the road and packed with explosives to carry out this attack. According to sources, industrial explosives that are used for coal mining, considering this area is also coal belt, was suspected to have been used in this particular attack. Now remember, 10 soldiers of the District Reserve Guard, or the DRG, along with a driver, were killed in a Naxalite ID attack in Chattisgarh's Dantewada yesterday. A team was also on a combing operation in the Aranpur district when this blast occurred.
घटना स्थल पे एक नक्सलियों के साथ मुठभेड़ हुआ, एक नक्सली घायल हुआ और एक नक्सली को पकड़ लिए और घायल नक्सली और जो जिन्हें गिरफ्तार किया गया था उसको लेकर वापस आ रहे थे। बस हमारे DRG के जवान और एक सिविलियन की शहादत हुई। ये लड़ाई और लड़ी जाएगी। जहाँ भी नक्सली की होने की सूचना मिलेगी, हमारे जवान अब घेर के उनके साथ मुठभेड़ कर रहे हैं, लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं।
Group of DRG men went to Aranpur 24 hours before the blast happened in Dantewada. They claimed that there was encounter with Naxals. Even a few suspected Naxals were taken into custody, who have now been brought to Dantewada, is what we hear. So after all of this happened, the group was coming back, and the road where this incident happened, the road where the blast happened, so on this main road, when this DRG group travelled, why was there no road opening party? That's the first violation of the standard operating procedure that is being questioned. Second, after this operation was over, this Naxal operation in which they claim to have taken into custody some suspected Naxals, they were coming back with them. They hired vehicle. The vehicle that was blasted off and one more were hired. They were not police vehicles, taken on rent. That's always a risk if police movement that knowledge becomes public. If local villagers get to know about it, there is always a risk that that information will travel to CPI Maoist cadre and there could be an ambush laid out for you. SOP says that when you're traveling for an operation like this, try and get onto a two-wheeler if you must. Walk. That's the first thing that is advised. There was firing from the other side of the road. So the Naxals were waiting to ambush you. If you had intelligence, prior intelligence about Naxal presence, why was this area not sanitized?
And my colleague Arunima is now joining me on the broadcast. Arunima, the entire argument right now after this dastardly attack is that because of the focus on core areas, Dantewada has always ended up being a soft target of the Maoists. What explains the laxity that has led to this fiasco?
The last 2 years, there have been no incidents, so to say. Even in the month of TCOC is the time from end of February to start of June when tactical counter-offensive campaign is launched by CPI Maoist. This is the worst time for the security forces, and yet in the past 2 years, they have managed to ensure their own safety and open more camps. Did that make them complacent? That is the question being asked. I just elaborated in the report that I filed a short while back about the lapses that had happened, how SOP was violated. There are more details coming out now. How meticulously Naxals had planned this attack. They had dug a tunnel like a foxhole below the road and they had packed it with explosives. So even when a ROP went over it, when a road opening party went over it, from the top of the road, you couldn't even say them that it was packed with explosives, that there was a tunnel below that. This kind of planning, I'm surprised that they had prior intelligence about Naxal presence, and yet the suspicion is that this kind of activity went on for 7 to 8 days. So an intelligence failure definitely on that count.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Arunima. Reactions, of course, are continuing to pour in on this story. Let's take a look.
मैं इस हमले की निंदा भी करता हूं और नक्सलवाद के खिलाफ लगातार मुहिम चलनी चाहिए, जड़ से खत्म करना चाहिए। इसके लिए हमारी सरकार प्रयासरत है। लेकिन दुर्भाग्य ये है कि छत्तीसगढ़ के मुख्यमंत्री इस पर भी राजनीति करते हैं। जब ये हुआ तब भी वो प्रियंका जी की कलाओं को ज़्यादा दिखाने का प्रयास कर रहे थे, ना कि इस हमले को चलते कुछ कार्रवाई करने के लिए। क्या कांग्रेस गांधी परिवार के स्तुतिगान में इतना डूब चुकी है कि 11 बहादुर शहीदों को भूलकर एक परिवार के ही चक्कर में खो जाए?
इसमें जो डीआरजी में जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी है, जो नक्सल पीड़ित भी है और जो नक्सल सरेंडर कैडर्स भी है, जैसे कल वाला घटना में भी उसमें तीनों प्रकार का जो थे, जो फ्रेश रिक्रूट्स भी थे, जो सरेंडर नक्सल कैडर्स भी थे और साथ साथ जो नक्सल पीड़ित थे उन्होंने भी मतलब बाद में जैसा उनका पुनर्वास नहीं दिखता तो पुलिस में उनका बल में मौका दी जाती, इस प्रकार मतलब तीनों का कॉम्बिनेशन थे। सब जिस तरीके से विगत वर्षों में हम ऑफेंसिव तरीके से काफ़ी अंदर तक आगे पहुंच चुके थे, उसका काफ़ी सकारात्मक परिणाम मैदान में देखने मिल रहे थे और निश्चित रूप से ये हमारे लिए एक सेटबैक रहा।
And we are getting some breaking news now, and this concerns the state of Karnataka. After the Karnataka Congress has filed a complaint against Home Minister Amit Shah for his riots remark, now Chief Minister of the state, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, has reacted, and he said, I'm quoting from his response, these are all political gimmicks by the Congress party. There is nothing in that complaint.
These are all political gimmick Congress does. They do all kind of violations. For example, they distributed pressure cookers, TVs, and they filed a complaint against our president. So this is one among them. There is nothing in that complaint.
My colleague Ritu is now joining us on the broadcast. Ritu, I believe there's this FIR that's been filed by Mr. Surjewala and DK Shivakumar, the pictures of which we are putting out for our viewers, against the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, where he'd gone on to claim that if the Congress comes to power in the state of Karnataka, there's going to be riots. Now, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai is saying that there is nothing as part of that complaint. Is there any kind of other response or backing that's coming in for the BJP against what the Congress party has done?
Now you see, right after the complaint was filed by Surjewala and KPCC President DK Shivakumar at High Grounds Police Station in Bengaluru, now BJP leaders are all coming out and in fact lashing out at Congress, saying that there's no base in the kind of complaint that they have really made. It's all that, you know, all the allegations that have been made by the Congress party. The BJP is in fact refuting them all. They are clearly stating that what's exactly wrong, that, you know, it's all campaigning. During the campaigning, whatever the leaders from the BJP or for that matter from Congress or JDS, all of them happens to give their make their statements, while this is not that only Union Home Minister Amit Shah has made it, while their leaders also, whenever they come from Delhi to poll-bound Karnataka, they too are making such sort of a statement where they are going on and attacking BJP government in the state. So exactly, so that's what there again Union Home Minister Amit Shah as well, when he was speaking in Vijaypura during the public meeting, was seen attacking the Congress, and during that public meeting is when that he gone on to make this sort of a statement, and now which has not gone down well with the Congress. The Congress is coming out attacking the BJP, saying this might really there might not be a peace in the society with these kind of leaders coming and making such statements. So that's the reason Surjewala is saying that the leaders who are really making this sort of statement should not be allowed in the poll-bound Karnataka, because this would worsen the situation of the state.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Ritu. We're right now leaving it at that. We're shifting our focus to the Indian evacuation that's currently underway. All the stranded Indians from Sudan are being brought back to India. Let's take a look.
On the way.
Now, the first batch of 360 Indians from the crisis-hit Sudan arrived in New Delhi last evening under Operation Kaveri. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India welcomes back its own. Close to 3,000 Indians will be brought back home over the next 2 to 3 days, and 2 more flights carrying Indians are expected to land in Delhi today. India used 2 C-130J military transport aircrafts and the warship INS Sumedha to evacuate more than 530 citizens from Sudan. And under the Operation Kaveri, India is taking the evacuees to Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah and then transporting them back home to the country, either in Delhi or in Mumbai. Now, another Indian aircraft with 128 more Indians on board has arrived at Jeddah this morning. MOS for External Affairs, Mr. V. Muralidharan, is currently in Jeddah to oversee this entire evacuation process.
Under the Operation Kaveri, which has been started by Indian government to evacuate the stranded Indians in Sudan, the first commercial flight carrying Indians stranded in Sudan has arrived in New Delhi. The flight had 360 passengers on board. Many passengers are still in Jeddah. For them, second flight is being arranged by Indian government. And in fact, the second round of evacuation is currently underway from Port Sudan. Now, situation on ground is complicated, and despite ceasefire being announced by both warring groups, despite truce being announced by warring groups, there is less implementation of the same on ground. And this is perhaps the reason that situation still remains complicated. What the people, those who have been rescued, are telling us is that Khartoum, in and around Khartoum, the 100 kilometers of Khartoum, the fight is going on, though that particular area is worst affected. And in fact, post that, the situation is comparatively peaceful. All those who have been evacuated were in touch with the Indian embassy through a WhatsApp group, and they did take a road route from Khartoum to Port Sudan, and from Port Sudan they have been evacuated in 3 batches. Some embarked on INS Sumedha. The other 2 batches were sent to Jeddah via C-130J Indian Air Force transport aircraft. Now, estimate figure is 500, those who have been evacuated. The second round of evacuation is still going on. We have been told that a second round of truce has been brokered, and India is now eyeing on second round of evacuation to Port Sudan.
एक विशेष बेनती है कि जिन्ने भी सुरक्षा कर्मचारी बादल साहब ना रहे वो कृपा करके श्रद्धा भेंट करनी चाहते हैं वो आके उन्होंने सारी जिंदगी बहुत बड़ी सेवा की है।
Last right, so 5-time Chief Minister of Punjab, Mr. Prakash Singh Badal, is currently underway. The visuals on your screens are from that last right ceremony that's currently happening. Even as we speak, we're bringing you these live visuals. Remember, widely considered to be an architect of the Shiromani Akali Dal, where in fact Mr. Prakash Singh Badal has always been lauded for his political presence in the country. His last rites are currently underway, and the last rites are being performed by his son Sukhbir Singh Badal and Manpreet Badal. Several political leaders, including various stalwarts like NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar, Jammu and Kashmir's National Conference leader Mr. Omar Abdullah, were all in attendance for the funeral. And you can see a gamut of people who have assembled to pay their last respects to Mr. Prakash Singh Badal. And we also been told how the government in Punjab, the state government, has declared a one-day state mourning today, where all the government offices and educational institutions, also banks in the state, will remain closed as a mark of respect to the departed leader. We also know that the Chandigarh police has issued a traffic advisory in anticipation of the heavy traffic that's expected at the Kalidal party headquarters, which is in Chandigarh at the time when Mr. Badal's body was brought there, because that was earlier planned, and now right now we are seeing the last rites are currently underway. Pankaj Kapahi, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast. पंकज, लास्ट राइट्स प्रकाश जी के अभी हम देख पा रहे हैं, एक स्टेट फ्यूनरल मिला है, एक दिन का स्टेट मोर्निंग अनाउंस किया है पंजाब गवर्नमेंट ने. बहुत ही ओवरबेयरिंग और इम्पोर्टेंट प्रेजेंस थी पंजाब पॉलिटिक्स में ही नहीं, इंडियन पॉलिटिक्स में बादल साहब की.
निश्चित तौर पर, क्योंकि जब भी क्षेत्रीय पार्टियों की बात होती है तो उसमें सबसे पुरानी पार्टी जो है वो अकाली दल की रही है, और एनडीए में अगर अलायंस की बात की जाए तो सबसे पुराना अलायंस अकाली दल का रहा है. हालांकि किसान आंदोलन की वजह से, खेती कानूनों की वजह से 2 साल पहले ये आंदोलन टूट गया, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री का खुद चंडीगढ़ आकर उनको श्रद्धांजलि देना, ये बात खुद ब खुद बयान करती है कि कितनी बड़ी शख्सियत थी. और मुझे याद है कि प्रधानमंत्री की तस्वीरें आपने 2 साल पहले देखी होंगी कि उनसे आशीर्वाद ले रहे हैं, उनके पैर छूकर, और लाल कृष्ण आडवाणी के साथ काम कर चुके हैं. इसके अलावा अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी की कैबिनेट में एज ए कृषि मंत्री काम कर चुके हैं, और सबसे यंगेस्ट सीएम के तौर पर पंजाब में रहे, और सबसे ओल्डेस्ट सीएम भी जो है वो प्रकाश सिंह बादल है. 95 साल की उम्र में उनका देहांत हुआ, और आज जब उनका अंतिम संस्कार होना था उस समय चाहे राजस्थान के सीएम अशोक गहलोत हों, चाहे शरद पवार हों, चाहे भूपेंद्र सिंह हुड्डा हों, तमाम सियासी दल जो है, प्रफुल्ल पटेल, हर कोई जो है उनको श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए पहुंचा. मुख्यमंत्री पंजाब जो है भगवंत मान, वो भी उनको श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए पहुंचे, और एक दिन की छुट्टी का ऐलान भी, सरकारी छुट्टी भी आज पंजाब में जो है वो पंजाब सरकार की तरफ से कर दी गई, क्योंकि पंजाब में उनको बाबा बोर्ड के नाम से जाना जाता था, ओल्डेस्ट, सबसे पुराने, क्योंकि जो आज़ादी से पहले उनका जन्म हुआ था और लाहौर में उनकी पढ़ाई हुई थी. सरपंची से उन्होंने शुरुआत की और 5 बार पंजाब की नुमाइंदगी की, पंजाब के सीएम के तौर पर रहे. इमरजेंसी के दौर में इंदिरा गांधी के समय में जो है वो जेलों में रहे, 19 महीने से ज़्यादा जेल में रहे. और जब क्षेत्रीय पार्टियों को मजबूत करने की बात होती थी तो अलग अलग पार्टियों के साथ मिलते रहे. देवीलाल चौटाला के साथ उनका बहुत प्यार रहा था, और इसीलिए आज तमाम सियासी पार्टियां, चाहे उनके साथ बनती थी नहीं बनती थी, सब उनको श्रद्धांजलि देते हुए नजर आए हैं.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pankaj Kapahi, for joining us on the broadcast. Like Pankaj was mentioning, 5-time Chief Minister of Punjab, a stalwart in Indian politics, has been laid to rest in Punjab today, and one-day state mourning has been declared by the government in Punjab. We're slipping into a very, very short break and coming right back with lots more that's lined up for you.
Retreated to Malkangiri through Tulsi Dogri. Those areas also I have seen. Somebody who has gone to Bastar, then only they will come to know how difficult it is to control Bastar area.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for even one corps of army to control Bastar area. Definitely, development is taking place. But you cannot, like the state is telling, it's a law and order problem definitely of the state. But Naxalite problem, yes, it is not alone the law and order it is not a law and order problem, and it is not only with the state. Definitely it is a coordinating affair of both state and center and the intelligence group. They will act together, but the leading role should be taken by Chhattisgarh police itself. Like Punjab police, they took the leading role for wiping out the Khalistani commandos and everything, and Punjab it became quiet. So the same thing has to be done here. CPMMs are there. In addition to them, the IRB battalions have to be trained. The local boys who are taken to DRGs, of course the DRGs were local boys, but what about the training? We have got a training center in Kanker from Army, and I hope Chhattisgarh police, they can be well trained in Kanker, and they have to come to the expectation.
See,
like
you
Andhra and
cannot
Telangana,
drop your guard.
they have done through Greyhound.
One cannot drop their guard at all. The Greyhounds are an example. But every time there is a slip up, there is carelessness, there is loss of lives. And Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, P.K. Mishra ji, Dhruv Katoji, you are all veterans. You've handled explosives, especially, and you know how much explosive is required to get to blow up a road that is more than 10 feet wide, and to blow a hole in that road which is more than 3.5 to 4 feet deep. So Lieutenant General Kulkarni, for somebody to be able to sow that kind of explosives and plant them on that road, which is a tarred road. If you see the road, it's a tarred road on either side, but look at that crater. That's a huge, that's a lot of explosive that has been planted there.
Yeah.
5 feet deep crater is what we are given to understand. General Kulkarni.
You know, what has happened is extremely sad. Something which is avoidable, because we have to have actionable end. Much that everything has been done at all levels. It's very easy to blame. So and so should have done this.
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha. Now, 15th century monument has been razed to the ground in order to build a bungalow for a former Delhi Jal Board CEO. Yes, you heard that right. A 15th century monument razed to the ground without information to the Archaeological Survey of India. The only thing that has left now is a part of the front wall. Now, the Department of Archaeology had written to the Delhi Jal Board in January 2021, seeking possession of this monument and the gateway for conservation. When they visited this particular place in January this year, they found out that it has been razed completely and only the gateway remained. The Delhi Jal Board Minister, Saurabh Bhardwaj, has refused to comment on this matter until now. And the monument, remember, has been razed in 2022, and a notice has been sent from the Department of Archaeology now to the Delhi Jal Board CEO, Mr. Udit Rai, I beg your pardon, about this entire razing of the monument, reiterating that they had already sought permission for the possession of the monument. Then why did the permission of going ahead and razing the monument really was given by, and by what competent authority? All of these answers need to be answered at the moment.
This is the only thing that is left of that 15th century monument that we are talking about, the Syed dynasty monument that was in fact present here and which has been completely razed down. This was the gateway to that monument, which has also been demolished. So this is the only wall that has been left. Now this is the second entry towards the new official bungalow that has been built over a time period of an year. And right now the family of the then Delhi Jal Board CEO is in fact living here. We try to speak to the guard over here, who refused to comment, also says that no one from inside is in fact willing to speak on the matter. The question over here is, of course, that what is the Delhi Jal Board going to do over this matter, whether they are in fact sent, now that this notice has in fact been sent to the then Delhi Jal Board CEO, and also an explanation has been sought from Delhi Jal Board as well. What is going to be the next course of action as far as Delhi Jal Board is concerned, or will the CEO, now that the new CEO is in place, whether he will move into this place, because at the end of the day, this land belongs to the Delhi Archaeological Department, who have in fact asked that the monument should be preserved, should be conserved, but instead a new bungalow has been built over here.
This shows the expansionist design of the Aam Aadmi Party government is not limited to their chief minister, it's also pervading to the other areas. तो अपने बंगला बने न्यारा की विस्तारवादी नीति, ऐसा लगता है कि सरकार के दूसरे बंगलों पे भी है, मगर मुझे लगता है दिल्ली की जनता दुखी है, व्यथित है, और फिर भी वो बड़े गौर से देख के कह रही है, नजर लागी राजा तोरे बंगले पे.
My colleague Sharon Elizabeth is now joining us on the broadcast. Sharon, there was already a controversy that was brewing when it is about the renovation task of the Chief Minister's bungalow. Now there is another bungalow, and there is a huge amount of answering that the Aam Aadmi Party government needs to be doing about this. Why has Saurabh Bhardwaj, who looks at the Delhi Jal Board, still refrained from commenting on this entire matter?
Well, in fact, we have tried to reach out to him if in case he has any response or reaction to the story, because when we are talking about the Delhi Jal Board, because this particular monument, the 15th century monument, is in the premises of Delhi Jal Board. Now, the fact of the matter here is that the Delhi Jal Board at that point in 2021 came under Raghav Chadha. Now, it was only recently when Saurabh Bharadwaj has in fact taken over. But even in that case, any sort of statement that could come from the Aam Aadmi Party or Delhi government has not really come up. And apart from that, we also tried to reach out to the former Delhi CEO, who was in fact living here for over a year. Later, he was in fact transferred to Mizoram. He's the commissioner over there.
Sharon, I'm really sorry. We're getting some important piece of breaking news. I have to interrupt you there. Breaking news is coming in, and this concerns the former Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Manish Sisodia. We've been told that he now has been sent to judicial custody till May 12th. CBI has informed court that even though the investigation in this case is still going on, but the probe against Manish Sisodia is now complete, and the court has directed the CBI to provide a copy of the charge sheet against Mr. Sisodia. So no relief there for the former Delhi Deputy Chief Minister. My colleague Ananya has all the details regarding this story. Ananya, over to you.
Well, definitely, Griha, the Central Bureau of Investigation has told the court that though investigation in this particular case is going on and is still continuing against various accused, but qua Manish Sisodia, the investigation at this point of time is complete. Now, what is very, very crucial to note at this point of time is that he has been sent to judicial custody till May 12th. And remember that the orders on his bail application in the ED case are scheduled to be pronounced tomorrow, while his bail application that was dismissed by the High Court is under challenge before the Delhi High Court. And now, if at all Manish Sisodia is able to secure a bail in the CBI case, but still ED case would still remain, and whether or not what would happen in that is something that is a matter of time, and we'll get to know tomorrow when the orders are pronounced by, in fact.
Ananya, CBI has mentioned that the probe right now is complete in this particular case. Is there any sort of a leeway for Manish Sisodia, to actually wriggle out of the situation, or he will be in judicial custody till May 12th?
Well, he will be in judicial custody till May 12 in this particular case as of now, because remember that his bail application is already pending before the Delhi High Court. And the argument that he can put forth is of a default bail, since the investigation for him is complete. The charge sheet has already been filed. And so he can actually claim a default bail since the investigation against him is complete. But at the same point in time, we also have to remember that there is another case going on against him, that is the Enforcement Directorate's case. And even if he secures a bail by the High Court, but which is very, very unlikely at this point of time, because remember that the arguments are still going on today, and it might take a few more days for, in fact, the arguments to be completed and rebuttals to happen. So until then, until May 12,